All right. How are we doing? How are we feeling? Welcome back to the show. It is good to be back. Howdy. Jimmy Moreland here for you with Veteran Audio. I'm a voice actor, audiobook narrator, and music producer. And today we are back in the saddle. We're going to be doing we're going to be having some fun. We're going to be doing some live voice acting auditions for some real jobs that are paying real money on the big voiceover casting websites, the pay-to-plays we like to call them. That'll be voices.com and voice123.com. We'll head over to ACX.com and see if there are any interesting auditions over there. We're probably not going to actually do any audiobook auditions. We'll look and see what's there and just sort of talk about why or why not I would do certain auditions, but I probably won't actually do the auditions because I'm chock full of audiobook work right now. And on that note, we will probably actually do some live audiobook work today on the stream. It has been a while since we've done the stream, so a little refresher here. First of all, I do have both Twitch and YouTube going. I do have the ability to see and respond to both Twitch and YouTube chats. So feel free to chat with me in whichever venue you like. If you want your chat messages to pop up on the video, right around here somewhere, then you will need to do so on Twitch, because the YouTube stuff, I can't overlay it. That's sort of against the Twitch rules. But if you chat with me on Twitch, everyone will be able to see your lovely little messages. Twitch is probably like the number one for engagement, but YouTube is good too. Likewise for YouTube comments later on, I do see notifications for comments, and I will respond to all that kind of stuff. So that's that stuff I do. And if I don't respond immediately, it's because like I've got chat up on a tablet that's like way sort of off in my peripheral. So if I don't see you immediately, like maybe ping me with another message and maybe I'll see it next time. I'll do my best. I promise. I'm not purposely ignoring you. Next up here, feel free to ask me about anything, gear, business, whatever. Even if it's not directly related to what I'm doing at that exact moment in time. I love talking gear. I love talking business here. So hit me with it. So let's jump in and see what we're actually going to be looking at here today. Let's take a look here. This should be the right view here. Let me double check. Yeah, over here on the left, we've got Pro Tools. And for anyone who has watched my past streams, you'll see my Pro Tools is looking a little bit different because I bit the bullet and I paid for my perpetual license to be updated to the most recent version, which means I have dark mode. Basically, I paid hundreds of dollars just so I could get dark mode. Not really many other features I gained access to, but damn it, it's worth hundreds of dollars to me to get dark mode, and so I did it. If that's sort of strange for you to look at, I'm very sorry, but it was basically, especially editing audiobooks, it was like staring into a light bulb for hours. So this is definitely an eyeball saver. So if you've got the ability to turn your DAW into dark mode, I highly recommend it. So that's what's over here on the left. On the right, we've got our voiceover audition websites. We've got voices.com right here. We've got Voice123 right here. We've got ACX right here. We'll take a look at that later. We've got our, we've got my little, we might take a look at this later. This is my like audiobook, like timesheet, if you will. That sort of lets me track my progress. We might be tabbing back and forth into this and just sort of show you like how I track my progress. Might be interesting for some folks who are like truly data nerds like myself. This little highlighted widget here, very important while you're working. You need some kind of widget that'll update you that when you get an email. Right here it's saying, boom, I've got a new voices.com audition. Let's hit the refresh here and see what that is. Now, it's a bummer that this is a 90%. Because it's telephone. I don't have a telephone demo. Now, it's a little bit later in the day. And I've been busy doing other things today. So I'll I'll be zooming through the biggest portion of what we'll be doing today is mostly not doing auditions. We'll be sort of sifting through the stuff that we don't want to do. Here, because I'm only a 90% voice match, and it's a pretty low budget for quite a lot of words. I'm not super interested. His place? Oh, it's one of those like, ooh, it's okay. You know what? Screw it. We're here. We're on the stream. Let's start practicing here. If you're wondering why I've got this silly dangling wire in front of my face, this is the most sort of comfortable way I've found to get a headphone in my ear and not have it distracting me. So I'm sorry if it's distracting to you. And earbuds for me are the best audio solution. Any sort of cans, big over the ears things, I tend to get bleed through the ears into the microphone. So that's just something that I'm hyper aware of. But your mileage may vary. So we're gonna just run right into this. It's a nice little short piece of copy here. Oh, we've got a little notification sound there. Whatever that sound was. I think that was a follower or something like that. Thanks for that. Welcome. We're going to run into this. We're not going to pre-read this sample script. We're going to read it cold, and shouldn't be too. We don't need to be too clever with it. It's just telephony. It doesn't need to be too crazy. So let's jump into it here. Thank you for calling his place. Let's try that again. Thank you for calling his place, where modern meets timeless. Discover our signature collection crafted for the modern man. From tailored suits to casual essentials, experience his place and elevate your Let's do a punch in right here. Yeah. From tailored suits to casual essentials. Yeah, that's a good. From tailored suits to casual essentials, experience his place and elevate your wardrobe. We could probably spend 5 minutes getting that read perfect, but that's a waste of everyone's time. That's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of the universe's time. We're not going to do that. You'll notice I didn't even listen to my read. His place, telephone. I apologize for the echo right there. It's because I turned on my mouth declick. Are we going to get a Pro Tools crash? Our first Pro Tools crash? I think we might have a Pro Tools crash. All right, we might get to read this again. Yeah, this looks like a crash. Yep, there it is. Wow. I think this is the first crash I've had on this newer version of Pro Tools, and I have done 2 audiobooks on this. So I've put in a good 45 hours on this version of Pro Tools. So we're going to hit Task Manager, and we're going to shut her down. That's interesting. Okay. And it's funny, usually I hit save before I bounce anything, but that was like the one spot where I did not do so. So we're going to get to, not have to, we're going to get to read that audition text again. But again, you'll get to see how fast the process goes from doing a quick punch and roll recording. Yeah, it's only a couple of lines, so of course it should be fast. But the quick punch and roll recording, the edit with a good punch and roll, the edit should be super, super, super fast. And then your edit to submission process should also should be quite fast. Please, please, please. Hello, window resizer plugin. Thank you. So we're just going to read that again. Rather than trying to search through the autosave thing, it's such a short piece of copy. Let's just read it again. Thank you for calling his place, where modern meets timeless. It's a little too cheesy. Thank you for calling his place, where modern meets timeless. Discover our signature collection crafted for the modern man. From tailored suits to casual essentials, experience his place and elevate your wardrobe. Let's punch in here again.
From tailored suits to casual
Essentials. Experience.
From tailored suits to casual
Essentials. Experience his place and elevate your wardrobe. That's fine. Again, what we're doing up here, by the way, I'm copying. Up here is just bits of room tone. So it's not pure silence. It is actual room tone. You can see if I scroll in like this, there's noise, there's information here. It's not pure silence. Let's bring that down again. So for our head and tails there, for our edit point there, here we go. Grab the whole thing, did our crossfades, save, turn on declick, which is going to introduce that little bit of delay, which might be a little bit annoying. Hit our bounce hotkey, and we're calling this his place. Telephone. And that time it didn't crash. Very good. Respond to the job. General reply. Hit our standard quote that we do for something like that. Hit our auditions. There it is. And in the time that it took us to do all that rigmarole, it went from 6 responses to 17 responses. The name of the game for voiceover auditions is speed. You got to be fast. You have got to be fast. It's no joke. Just double checking here that everything's still good with OBS. Seems like we're doing well. Still good. Still good. Been a while since I've done the stream. It's good to be back. Keeps me, Okay, this is great. You'll love to see this. I'm seeing this job before the email has even hit my inbox. So let's take a look at this. Anima 100% voice match. Communication tool. Email just hit my inbox. So let's see if we can be quick here. They need a directed session. Easy. Warm, bold, empowering. Cool. Whatever. Let's just run through it. Communication. Communication is the heartbeat of business. But Communication is the heartbeat of business. But today's professionals are asked to communicate more information faster and across more channels than ever before, all while being Loud car passing. Let's wait.
across more channels than
Ever before, all while being expected to remember an impossible word salad of We'll get a little funny, not silly, but it's good text
more
here.
channels than
Ever before, all while being expected
across more channels
than ever before, all while being expected to remember an impossible word salad of organizational language. But more communication does not
word salad of organizational
language. But more communication does not mean better communication. The inefficiency is not only
communication does not mean
better communication. The inefficiency is not only frustrating, it's expensive. All right. Again, you could spend forever trying to, quote, get it perfect. But while you're spending all this time trying to get it perfect, dozens of other people are getting their auditions in. We will listen to this one transition here.
Than ever before, all while being...
That's fine. Generally speaking, I don't listen to anything that I've recorded. I trust in my ability to punch and roll accurately, correctly. Bounce. We don't know what this is. Okay. Communication tool. Spot 03. Sure. Let's see what number. There we go. 500. Select the file. Here it is. We're going to be number 7, it looks like. Thereabouts. That's a good place to be. You want to be in the first 10. That's how early you want to be. That's how quick you want to be. If we had spent another couple of minutes trying to get every little line, every syllable perfect, every breath, spent time listening to every transition, like, oh, maybe we can, like, by a couple milliseconds shift that and this and that gap, like, nah. The name of this game, like, and the way that these casting directors are listening, they're not listening for how perfect your every syllable is. They're not listening for that. They're listening, do they like your voice? And so they're making a decision, no or shortlist, within the first 3 seconds. That's how fast they're making a decision for no or shortlist. And the no decision is usually in the first half a second. Like, they just hear the tone of your voice, and it's not like they don't like you as a person. You're just not right for that spot. It's not the voice that they have in their head for that spot. So if in all likelihood, if you're going to be a no anyway, and that's going to be decided in the first 3 seconds, why are you going to spend 5 minutes on an audition? Don't do it. Okay. So all of these ones, they've got so many responses, except for maybe this one. They probably are very, very specific about either the age range or something demographic, but we'll take a look at that. And we might take a look at these two as well. Let's archive everything else. Let's take a look at this. 31 responses. That's like right at the cusp of, like, do I actually want to submit for it? It's a $100 budget, though. You have to remember, on voices.com, Voices is going to keep 20% of whatever you submit. So if the client ever puts a flat number like $100, that's the number I'm putting. I'm never going to put less than this number. That's just silly. Why would you put less? If they've put this number, then that's their number. Put that number in your quote. But remember that that's not the number that you're going to get paid if you book this job. You're going to get paid this number times 0.8. You're going to get 80% of this number. Because even though you're already paying an annual fee, Voices is going to take another 20% of anything you earn on the website. Cool stuff. A Midwestern tone, as if he lives in that small town. You know what? I'm not competing with 31 people for $80. Sorry. Archive that. What do we got here? Same deal. And I would bet that this is probably, I didn't look, but I bet this is probably the same client. So we'll archive that one. Let's see why this one only has 14 responses. It's slightly longer, but it's not outrageous. It's not like an audiobook or something like that. Do they want, like, on camera? Oh, they want recurring, which is fine. Like, I'm curious. So long as looking for a narrator to record 1 to 2 scripts per week, so long as that means, like, every time you record one of these, you get this, and this isn't like a, I don't know. This seems like, let's look at their example. Let's look at the example. Vacuum Wars.
Welcome to Vacuum Wars, where over the years...
It's very, how it's made. Let's go ahead and do this one. I don't know why no one has gone for this. Like, if I could get, like, weekly work like that, like, more or less guaranteed, fill my calendar up. Let's go. Like, Maybe just because I'm an audiobook narrator and like, yeah, I'll do the longer form stuff. Let's go. Like, it ain't all gonna be commercials, guys. Let's go. So here we go. Starting off with the pros. Its general performance was good. For example, it had decent power numbers, like slightly above average airpo. Let's start right here. Pros. Its general performance was good. For example, it had decent power numbers, like slightly above average airflow on max power. Its carpet deep cleaning scores and crevice pickup scores were average, or a little above average. Trying to parse like what they're actually trying to convey here. So they're going from good to the meh. Okay. Pros. Its general performance was good. For example, it had decent power numbers, like slightly above average airflow on max power. Its carpet deep cleaning scores and crevice pickup scores were average or a little above average. It was also good at its main job of picking up debris on the surfaces of hard floors and carpets, where it picked up everything we threw at it with no issues. It uses a single main brush and a single side brush for its up everything we threw at it with no issues. It uses a single main brush and a single side brush for its vacuuming. It doesn't have an extendable side. It's up everything we threw at it with no issues. It uses a single main brush and a single side brush for its vacuuming. It doesn't have an extendable side brush, but it does have edge detect, where it will blow air when vacuuming edges to move debris in its path, which is pretty unique. Another pro was that it had in its path, which is pretty unique. Another pro was in its path, which is pretty unique. Another pro was that it had generally good mopping performance. It uses crazy little click there that we might actually we'll visually see that when we do the edit. I can see it right now, the click at the end of that line. Was that it had generally good mopping performance. It uses a single mop pad which moves back and forth as it mops for agitation. That's fine. Again, I could spend another 10 minutes making it perfect, but perfection isn't what we're looking for. We're looking for its general performance was good. For example, it had we're looking for good enough, and I don't say that derisively. I don't say that flippantly. Good enough is good. Good enough is good enough. It is a real thing that the client will be happy with, that you should be happy with. Hitting save, just in case we get a crash here, because I don't want to read all that again. Hitting bounce, and we're going to just call this like Vacuum Wars. Sure, that's all we're going to call it. Vacuum Wars. Not words, wars. Here we go. Reply. And boom. There we go. Send. All right. It's this client again, and again, we're seeing it right away. So let's be super early again. It's kind of nice. Let's turn the D-click off. Here we go. Wait, this is the exact same spot. So we're just going to reply with the exact same. I don't know why they're doing that, but we're going to reply with the exact same audio, and this time will be first or damn near first. I don't know why they've done that, but I'll take it. All right, these all have many auditions in. So we are clear on our queue on voices.com. So we did a couple auditions, not bad. Go ahead and do that so we're not doing robot voice here. I'm going to refresh on Voice123. Now, voices.com and Voice123, they distribute their auditions in different ways. Voices.com, when they're ready to go out, they go out right away to everybody. And you just saw this just populated. Voices.com, you have to hit refresh. Or you have to otherwise like navigate and like cause the page to reload for whatever reason. Whereas Voice123, this thing has like an RSS type feature where this thing, like if a new job gets distributed, it'll happen. You don't actually have to hit refresh. So that's one very cool thing about Voice123 is that this thing is like basically always live. But Voice123 doesn't send jobs out immediately. It doesn't send jobs out as soon as like it gets them. It sends them out according to whatever, like algorithmically. Basically, you're sorted into an algorithm based on your payment tier and based on your score, your rating as voice talent. And you can see that in your profile. I won't click the profile because when you click that, it actually like right there on the page, it shows like some client information, and I don't want to show you that. But I can tell you that my score, my rating is top 20%. Haven't been able to crack that top 10%. That's where the real pros are. By all means, if you can find them live streaming their auditions, go watch them. I think I'm the only person who does this. But I will say, the Voice123, the algorithm, that rating portion of how you get sorted is brutal. When I first got onto Voice123, I went nuts. I auditioned for every single thing I saw, and I tanked my standing in the algorithm. I found myself in the bottom 20% within a couple of weeks because I just went nuts on the auditions. I was auditioning for stuff that I wasn't suited for. And basically the only way that the algorithm has to get feedback on whether you are good or not is whether you're getting hired and whether clients are giving your auditions thumbs up or not. And so if you're auditioning for things that you're not suited for, whether you're not the right demographic or just that's just not in your wheelhouse, like I know that I'm not a sports voice, whether it's football or golf, two very different energies, but neither of those are things that I'm ever going to book. I have booked a rodeo thing, and I booked it on Voice123. I constantly say on this channel, voice talent, know thyself. And on Voice123, it's especially important to know yourself, know your limitations, know what you're best for. If you have any doubts, it's best not to audition. On voices.com, go nuts. Audition for every damn thing you want. Have fun, stretch, try stuff. On Voice123, you always have to have the algorithm in mind. And it took months and months of hard work to scrape my way from the bottom 20% back up to top 20%. And I'm very proud to be back up in the top 20% and having maintained that for a good year now. So it feels good to be top 20%. It does not feel good to be bottom 20%. So don't do like I did if you're looking to get into Voice123. So let's go ahead and let's stop yapping and let's take a look at, first of all, we've got 16 available jobs here. Let's do a quick cull and see why I would quickly cull some of these jobs and for what reasons. So first of all, we see these two numbers here. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see these two numbers here. So it says 20 out of 25 proposals. This client has requested to hear 25 proposals or auditions from talent. They have already received 20. This client has requested 45, and they've already received more than they have requested. So I am not going to audition for this because I ain't going to get heard. So in those cases, I'm just going to archive or decline or whatever they call it here. So 31 out of 25, no, thank you. Or if it's over, or if it's really, really close, because it would be a damn shame if we did all the work and then while we were doing the work, it went over the limit. So like 23 out of 25, nah, not going to do that. The next thing that I will not be doing, and here's an example, like both of these, we'll just do this. Here's an example. All of these ones say custom audition, custom audition, custom audition. This one doesn't say custom audition. This client, this client, like, they've got all this stuff that they want, and they're just, so give us a script, give us something so that we can give you like exactly what you want. Change the name of your client if you're worried about that, do something. But they're just saying, no, just send me samples. And I've gone on long explanations of why that's a really, really terrible idea if you're our client. Like, putting this is the stupidest, dumb thing that you can do. Like, you're wasting your time. You're potentially wasting your money. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble hiring talent who is unable to deliver on what is promised in those samples. Whereas if you post a script, you get a custom audition, that's basically proof that the talent is able to deliver the audio quality that you hear in that custom audition. Whereas if you just send in a really slick sounding demo, like, oh, wow, this sounds so great. Well, maybe that demo was recorded elsewhere in a really nice studio, but that talent doesn't live within 100 miles of that studio, and they're planning on doing your job in their bathroom on an iPhone. Like, then you're screwed. Like, so this screams amateur as far as clients go, even though this has a decent budget. Well, paid media in the ship. There's so many red flags with this. This is so many red flags. So this is garbage. You can see, like, yeah, so many auditions come in, but most of them are crap. Honestly, they're not mostly crap. Like, I'm sure many of those ones that had loads and loads of auditions come in before us, like, that's on us. That's on me, because I wasn't sitting here in my booth doing auditions all day. I had other stuff to do. But a lot of the stuff that does come in is crap, because you've got clueless clients, or you've got clients who are trying to take advantage of voice talent. People, $500. Well, yeah, if it's an in perpetuity buyout that's nationwide for television and radio for donuts, that's the worst deal I could imagine. $500? That needs to be at least $50,000 for in perpetuity, for nationwide television and radio, for donuts. Even 50,000, that's not enough. In perpetuity, no. 50,000, maybe that's a 2-year buyout. Perpetuity, 500,000. Seriously, those numbers sound crazy, but like, I don't know. As you start talking with voice talent who have been conflicted out of bigger deals, that's what you're paying for. You're not paying for like the work that you've done in the booth. You're paying for opportunity cost. Because if you get locked into an in perpetuity deal with that client for nationwide donuts, and then suddenly Krispy Kreme comes along and says, hey, we want to pay you $20,000 for a 6-month campaign. Well, you can't do it. You can't. You're conflicted because of the $500 job you did 10 years ago, because you did an in perpetuity for $500 10 years ago. Something to think about. Okay, let's move along. Gen Z, probably not me. So we're gonna skip that one. CKO intro, probably gonna skip the. So, gardens, no. So let's see. Radio salute to veterans. So this one's got a really low budget, but Voice123 lets you keep all of that budget. All $50 of it. Now, what radio station is playing the national anthem every day at noon? It's not a military radio station because they play the national anthem at 4:30 p.m. Strange. This is a little strange here. But let's take a look here. So the reason I'm looking at this, it's a $50 job. The reason I'm looking at it is because as a veteran, I've got a really good chance. I've got a good shot at this. And sometimes on Voice123, I'll take jobs for the effect that it might have on me in the algorithm. If I feel like, how many people have submitted for this? Only one person has submitted for this. If I submit for this, I'm the second person to submit for it, and I say in my proposal, I am a veteran. I've got a pretty good shot at it, provided I do a good job on my audition here. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it. I don't care about the $50. I care about the algorithm. I would pay $50 if you could go like, this has a good chance of bumping you from 20 to 10%, top 10%. Like, I would pay $50 for a guaranteed bump. I'd pay $500 for a guaranteed bump to top 10%. It's that valuable. Okay, let's just do this. This is our top of the hour salute for the men and women who have... So, I wish I knew more about this radio station. So, I have a feeling that this is like, maybe like a conservative talk radio, or maybe like a Christian radio station or something like that. So this is, I don't want to be too melodramatic. I don't want to be too over the top, but it needs to be like reverent. Reverent is probably the number one word we want here. This is our top of the hour. This is our top of the hour salute for the men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Thank you to all of our veterans, past and present, for protecting our home. We'll give them 2 reads. This is our top of the hour salute for the men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Thank you to all of our veterans, past and present, for protecting our home. So, I'd say the first one is more reverent, and the second one is more like, I want to say, Republican sounding. Oh, God. Do we have a little click here that we probably want to, do that and then extend this. We will listen to the lengths of these gaps here. Our freedom. Thank you to all of our veterans, past and present, for protecting our home. This is our top of the hour salute for the men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Thank you to all of our veterans for protecting our home. Let's shorten this up a little bit. For our freedom. Thank you to all of our veterans. Yep, okay. Hit that. Save. Turn on the D-click. Bounce. Boom, boom. Close view. Accept the invite. Let's turn off the D-click so I'm not echoing for you. There's the salute thing. This is all still correct. There we go. See, it says right here, top 20% of voice actors. And if you're curious, so I said the two metrics by which Voice123 determines like when to send out the jobs that come in. There's this, what percentage ranking you are. So obviously the higher ranking you are, the earlier you're going to get the jobs. And then the other is how much are you paying? And I this year decided to bump up to the very, very top paid tier that is like publicly available. So it's like, I think it's like $2,200 or something like that per year is where I'm at. And that was me stepping up from the like $900 a year. And I did immediately notice a difference. There is a big difference stepping up from $900 to the $2,200. There was an immediate difference. There is a tier above that. There's a $5,000 tier, but that is like invite only. And there's something like only like 50 or 100 voice talent who like are in that group. And like those people hold on to it. Like it sounds morbid, but like someone's got to die for one of those slots to open up, basically. Someone's got to retire for one of those slots to open up. Because those 50, I think it's 50 people. Those 50 people are really, really well known to the staff at Voice123. So when jobs come in, it's not just that, oh, those 50 people get it first. It's that, okay, a job comes in and you know, this client's looking for a Sam Elliott read. Very, very common, right? They go, of our 50 here, these two people, those are our Sam Elliott read people. They will send it to those two individuals first before anyone on the entire website gets it. They'll send it to those two people first, provided the job is going to pay enough for what they know those two talent tend to ask. Like, it's a good club to be in. You know, maybe one day we'll get asked to be in the club, you know? We all got to have goals. So, all right. We've done an audition on Voice123 today. Very good. This one looks like we've got a couple. Let's see here. Prescott Russell Employment Services Center. Okay. Another really low budget. This one we might not do because. So here's another important thing. You got to consider so much when you're looking at these things. Voice, gender, and age. Male, young adult, male adult. Female, young adult, female adult. This client isn't quite sure what they want. So I don't know if they're gonna want me or not. And taking that kind of risk for maybe getting $50 and like on voices.com, the risk is the 2 minutes it takes me to turn this audition around. But here, every time you submit a proposal, that's potentially like notching you down just a little bit every single time you submit a proposal that doesn't get a thumbs up or a higher. So every time, it's a risk. So I'm going to decline that one. I want to see auditions where the client knows a little bit more about what they're looking for. So here, they're less sure about the age, but they know they want a male voice. The RTA store contractors. So this looks like it's probably a tools. I've got a good tool store, like a good hardware store read. Yep. Okay. I don't know what the difference is between V3 and interesting. Okay. Whatever. We'll I think we might do this one. Let's look at this, see if we got any more information here. Nothing really. 6 people are already in. It's not too much. We don't have anything about just North American general, but we don't know where in the U.S. they are, or do we? Sometimes it's good to get a little bit of info. We could probably look up the RTA store, because if they're in Boston, it's like, oh God, do they want a Boston accent? Like, if they're in Lubbock, Texas, do I need to put that on? I don't know. But they did say General American, so we'll just throw on a General American here. Whether you're a contractor, designer, or handle large-scale jobs, I think that's fine. Interpretation is a funny thing. I'm not gonna overthink it. Whether you're a contractor, designer, or handle large-scale jobs, your clients are relying on your expertise and expect the best possible service experience. The RTA store is committed to making that happen with exclusive discounts for our professional partners. Professional is not an adjective. The RTA store is committed to making that happen with exclusive RTA store is committed to making that happen with exclusive discounts for our professional partners. When you sign up for our professionals program, we take care of you. Discounts for our professional partners. When you sign up for our professionals program, we take care of you. Starting with first-class customer professionals program, we take care of you. Starting with first-class customer service from a team of professionals dedicated to your specific business needs. We're going to punch right here in the middle of this sentence. First-class customer service. First-class customer service from a first-class customer service from a team of professionals dedicated to your specific business needs, to an industry-leading dedicated to your specific business needs, to an industry-leading 20-year limited warranty. Dedicated to your specific business needs, to an industry-leading 20-year limited warranty on our cabinetry, and to our. This copy is 20-year limited warranty on our cabinetry, and to our 20-year limited warranty on our loud vehicle passing, very annoying. 20-year limited warranty on our cabinetry, and to our dedicated designers to help you with layouts, renderings, and quotes. 20-year limited warranty on our cabinetry, and to our dedicated designers to help you with layouts, renderings, and quotes. Oh, okay. It's like, what the hell? There's a weird line split here. With layouts, renderings, and quotes, all with a consistent focus on the quality of our product. And that focus on the quality of our product. And that product gets to you fast. Our quick ship program helps you deliver on time, so you can close your deal today. We're going to stop there. So, no, we'll give them the whole thing. So you can close your deal today. For projects big and small, contact. So you can close your deal today. For projects big and small, contact the RTA store and get quality products at an exclusively loud vehicle passing. I don't know if y'all can hear that. And it would probably get scooped out by my my EQ. I've got a high pass that's pretty aggressive, but still. Contact the RTA store and get quality products at an exclusive. Contact the RTA store and get quality products at an exclusively discounted price for your clients now. That's fine. Okay. So I was thinking of stopping right here at about 50 seconds. Generally speaking, for voiceover commercial standard, like, video narration, you're like brand anthem type video stuff, even e-learning and stuff. Like if it's not an audiobook, if it's anything other than an audiobook, 50 to 60 seconds is all you need to give. Anything more than that, you just find a natural place to stop in the copy and you stop at the 50 to 60 second mark. Here, some people worry about delivering the entire copy. Like, oh, I'm going to get robbed. Like, maybe that happens 1 out of every 1,000 times, like literal 1,000 times. But going ahead and delivering the full 57 seconds might book you the job 1 out of every 200 times. So in the long run, you'll make the money. Where this is RTA store. Okay. Accept invite. Boom. Delete the line about 2 reads. So another silly difference between Voices and Voice123 is that on Voices, you've got a little drop down where you've got like response presets, little templates. Here, it just remembers the last thing you typed, and so you like. It's just a persistent. I'm glad that it remembers, but you just have to remember that if you typed something different for like a unique situation with the last client, for example, the last one I did 2 different reads. This one, obviously, I'm just doing the 1 read, so I had to make sure to delete that line. Anyway. You know what I haven't seen any of today? So one thing I usually complain about and that is any client that just says, instead of having a budget, they just say that they're looking for a quote. I generally do not do those jobs because they're asking us to, again, take a risk our position in the algorithm because they're too cowardly to put a number down. Like, no. I'm not playing that game. I'm not trying to guess the number that's in your head. Tell us what your effing budget is, and I will agree to it or not. Like, you tell me your budget. That's how this works. So let's see here. Archie, a dog napper for Mystery Mavericks. This is it's a children's story. I'm not feeling like doing crazy character voices at the moment. Because I need to keep my voice good to go for audiobook work because I've got a load of it to do here in a minute here. So create storyteller ad screenwriters. This seems cool. Do not voice. Like, okay, if they do, cut it. Whatever. All right, you know what? We're not going to do that. And here we're also probably not going to do this. 42 out of 50. Yeah, I don't know. Is this beer or what is this? Seafood. Neutral North American. Why don't you... I guess if this is aimed at Canadian and American customers, like if the audience like is also Americans, then yeah. But otherwise, like, why not lean in to it being Canadian? Because like the payment is coming out in Canadian. Keep this in mind. The payment is shown in the country of origin. So before you get excited about getting $350, remember right now the exchange rate is such that this isn't as great as you think it is. What is that right now? $243. That is brutal for the Canadian dollar right now. So yeah, keep in mind that these budgets are shown in the actual currency that you'll be paid in. So yeah, I'm not competing with 42 people for $240. Sorry. So we're gonna pass on that one. And that is Voice123 cleared out, and so is Voices. Right. Yep. So let's look at ACX. Now we're gonna go ahead and go full screen here. Now, ACX. I frequently see on the Facebook groups much wailing and gnashing of teeth over the state of the ACX project queue. And, people aren't wrong, but if you're checking the project queue like once a week or something like that, then you're doing it wrong. If you are hungry for audiobook work, if you're trying to get audiobook work, then you need to be checking ACX multiple times per day. Whatever you're doing to try to get your audiobook business working, if you're sitting at a computer as part of that, whether you're, creating your demos, whether you've got some royalty share audiobook work that you're doing, or you're working on your Squarespace website, or you're, working on your social media content, or whatever it is, if you are sitting in front of a computer, then you need to, every few hours, whatever ACX filters or whatever you've got, just hit refresh. Just see what's here. So for me, the persistent thing that I see with ACX for me, I don't know if it's true for everybody, but is that ACX doesn't remember any filters, except for it does remember the gender filter, and it does remember my budget. All the other stuff, anytime I select any of this stuff, language, it just never remembers it. Oh, it looks like it has remembered that I don't want to read erotica. Not that I necessarily don't want to. Actually, I don't want to. But, why am I on that one? So this would be the price bucket that I would actually be looking at if I was looking for audiobook work right now. The thing is, I'm not looking for audiobook work right now, because my calendar is stacked with audiobook work. I'm in the very fortunate position where all of the authors that I work with they're very prolific. They write a lot. They write fast. And they write consistently enough that basically I've got a handful of authors that they just keep my calendar full. I'm not needing to get new work. Just these half dozen or so people. That's it. They're just churning. And so long as they don't retire or anything else, I'm kind of set. I'm incredibly fortunate. I'm not saying why can't you do it the way I did it? That's the stupidest thing to say. But it took a long time to get there for sure. And I did it. I got there all through ACX. Every single one of these clients was acquired through ACX. So ACX can be a thing. As much as I love, your Scott Bricks and all of those types of people, I've had a private coaching session with Scott Brick. He's phenomenal. And all of those people, they're phenomenal. But people like that, they've been in this industry for so long that when they got started, ACX didn't exist. And so their advice on how to start your business, it's not really applicable. It's not super useful. Their advice on the craft, absolutely. Their advice on the day-to-day, the day-to-day of the early weeks and months and years of building your business from the ground up, I'm sorry, but Scott Brick doesn't have much of value for someone starting in 2025. He just doesn't. I love him to death. He's my favorite. I love you, Uncle Scott. But it just doesn't. I would much rather listen to, just pick a handful of people who are consistent quality contributors on one of the big Facebook groups. I would much rather listen to them talk for an hour about how they started their audiobook journey within the last 5 years and sort of what they have seen work and not work. That's what I'd rather see. Not everything has worked for me. I'm not saying I'm like, the way I do things is the way to do things, but hopefully some of this stuff is helpful. So I'll shut up about all that now and say, here's what I would look for if I was hungry for an audiobook right now. So first of all, talent, know thyself. I would know that this book right here, not for me. The content, probably not going to be for me. Also, 1.7 hours length. You don't want these in your portfolio. You don't want anything under 3 hours in your portfolio. If you are just getting started, it's your first book, maybe fine, I guess. But as far as I'm concerned, and as far as, down the road, casting professionals for publishers are concerned, this is not a book. This is a pamphlet. If you tell someone with, Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, Blackstone, or someone like that, if you tell them, oh, I've done 40 books, and they're like, oh, wow, okay, cool, you're coming right along. They go and look at your portfolio, and those 40 books are all 1.7 hours. They're going to go, oh, that person misled me. Cool. They're blacklisted. I'm never talking to them again. This, 7.8 hours. That's a book. What you want to be wary of with a title like this is this. Book 3. Why Book 3? What happened to the narrator for books 1 and 2? What's going on? You can quickly find out. Let's view this title on Amazon. Let's go. Let's look at the author's page. There's, Great War Book 2 right here. It's on audiobook. Okay. Who's the narrator? Carolyn Turner Cole. Let's listen to the preview.
This is Audible.
The Ballad of Broken Glass. Written by Kay McCabe.
She sounds great. Why aren't you hiring her? Sometimes, published by Shatterpoint. Sometimes there's a publisher change. I didn't notice if Shatterpoint also is publishing the third book. I didn't notice. Sometimes, if a publisher changes, maybe the narrator has like some kind of exclusive or some kind of deal with the publisher, and they can't follow the series once the series leaves that publisher. That could be a situation. Let's look at book 1 and see if what's going on here. Book 1, please. Book 1, please. This one doesn't have an audiobook either, so maybe this person is... This is very confusing. This is really confusing. Like, purely just based on length and budget, sure, do an audition, but before you sign a contract with this rights holder, I would get an answer to the question, hey, what happened with Gail McCabe, whatever her name was, for book 2. She sounded great. What happened with her? For people who are so interested, you can see what's in my Amazon cart right now. How embarrassing. I've got an electronic level, a bottle jack, and humidifiers for guitars. The bottle jack is for leveling the beams in my basement, and the level is for making sure the leveling is level. Okay, so yeah, this is a funny one. If you ever be skeptical about, also be aware that when you take over a series from another narrator, get ready to get review bombed. No matter what the previous narrator sounded like or whatever, people want to hear more of the same. Like if they're ready to buy book 3, it's because they liked what they heard in book 2. And if suddenly they hear you, no matter how great you are, it wasn't what they were expecting. And a lot of people are going to be really upset by that. And they're going to let it be known in the number one way that is made available to them, which is the Audible review window. And they're not going to be nice. They're not going to be thinking about the human behind the microphone. I took over for quite a successful sci-fi series, a long-running sci-fi series. And I was the second narrator switch. One narrator did the first 6 books. Another narrator did 2 more books. I've done the following 4 books, and hopefully I'll continue to do them. I've got a great relationship with the author. But that first book that I did, man, people were upset. But I looked back, and people were upset about the first narrator switch. But then by his second book, people were like, he's fine now. And now people are fine with me. So you got to have a thick skin if you're going to take over someone else's narration. But if you can stick with it, people become accustomed to you and be fine with it. So that's my advice there. Let's take a look at this. Under a Waning Moon. Nice looking cover. Good length. This all looks good. Sure. This is great that they include this. That it's a series. The series is about 173k words, which means right now it's only 2 books, or maybe that's books 2 and 3 are much shorter than book 1, I guess. But it's good that they put it leads conservative with Christian values. Like, that's good to know. So keep that in mind. If that jives with you, then great, go for it. If it doesn't, then avoid. Don't, out of desperation just to get some kind of work, don't sell your soul. Because it takes a toll. This, I get a little wary when I see when the rights holder isn't sure exactly what payment structure they want. Like, maybe royalty share plus, or maybe I just pay for it. Okay. Lot of text here, which is good, but ACX doesn't allow for proper formatting within these text windows, so it's a mess. Hopefully this text is repeated in the audition script. Something I mentioned. So for commercials, 50 to 60 seconds. That's all you get. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. For audiobooks, 3 to 5 minutes. That is all you get. This looks like it's probably 3 to 5 minutes. So this is fine. But if you see, 20 pages of single-spaced, they don't get all that. 3 to 5 minutes. Try to pick something that sort of logically sort of wraps up, ends on a down note, wraps up narratively in a way that makes sense. Or maybe do your own quick little edit that grabs a couple of the main characters as far as you can tell, so that you can demonstrate that you can do, male and female dialogue together, that kind of stuff. Those are the kinds of things that a rights holder should be wanting to see. Yeah, this looks like super solid. And you love seeing book 1 because that implies that there's more work to come. So yeah, this is the kind of book that I would almost certainly, I would audition for this if I had space on my calendar. But the problem is, like, if I auditioned for this and they said, "Great, when can you start?" I'd be like, "How's April?" And they'd be pissed. So, yeah. Here, Meditations on the Mountain. Let me guess. Yep, that's what I thought. Brochure length. Skip that one, people. Skip it. All Folked Up. Small town romantic comedy. Skip it. 1.3 hours. Skip it. 3.3 hours? Sure. Here's another thing. No. Okay, here. This didn't used to be a thing on ACX. Accent, Black or African American. Do not put that voice on if that isn't who you are. I hope I don't have to spell out anymore what I mean. This category, it didn't used to be like an option to make it this specific. But let's just pretend that wasn't here. You should still be able to use your context clues. We're all readers here, remember? You use your context clues and go, "The hood needs love too, a breath of liberation and a cry of resistance." You should be able to use your context clues and go like, maybe someone who looks like me isn't the right narrator for this story. Audiobook narrators are just about the only kind of voice talent where it's appropriate to voice characters who are not of the same racial or ethnic background that we are. Unless that is the main point of view of the overarching story, the main point of view of the storyteller, the author's point of view, if it's generally something that is going to obviously be in bad taste for some kind of broad cultural reason, like those kinds of things, you just have to use you got to have some self-awareness with these things. And again, I'm trying to think of a counterexample here, but I do believe that audiobooks, because audiobook narration is really the only craft that, like, it's one voice doing all of the characters. Whereas just about every other form of art, like, yeah, like, okay, like you have an African American character, you cast that character appropriately. You don't get someone doing a black scent, which I apologize. I think that even using that term is not appropriate, so I apologize if that's the case. But it gets the point across. Like, don't do that shit. If this is not you, don't do that shit. That will ruin your career, and frankly, you'll deserve it. That's enough of that. Okay, so this is all to say that right now, there are, for someone like me, there are 2, maybe 3 books that I would go, hell yeah, I'm auditioning for. Now, how long have these books been up? This one's been up for almost a month. This one's been up for a little over a week. This one got posted today. And there's no telling, because right now I'm not checking ACX every day, there's no telling in the interim how many good, viable projects are being posted every single day. Which is to say, again, you need to be checking ACX every single day. And if this price bucket, this $200 to $400 bucket, if there's nothing there and you need something, you got to pay your rent somehow. You know better than me what can and cannot pay your rent with how efficient you are and all that. And if 1 to 200 can pay your rent, if you can get the work, then check that box and start looking at these auditions. There's a whole lot more of them. There's 28 right now. And maybe just check them both. And again, just a couple times a day, refresh this, check it. If you're in a position where you can play a little bit more of the long game, then check that royalty share and the royalty share plus box and start sorting through this crazy mess. 780 projects right now. Start sorting through this crazy mess and start trying to find those good gambles, because that's what royalty share is. It's a friggin' gamble. But in the long run, it can pay off. I've only done a handful of royalty share, and I'm making like $20 a month off of it. Whereas I think, I know loads of people who are making many thousands of dollars every month. And, to where they can take some time off and they've got income that will just continue to come in. It's not saying it'll come in forever. They got to keep refreshing that pipeline for sure. But it's just a different way of living, that royalty share lifestyle. It's not my thing. I'd much rather do the per finished hour stuff. So that's the ACX current landscape. People are constantly like, oh, there's nothing on ACX, so how do people get stuff outside of ACX? And bothering people by emailing them or messaging them on LinkedIn, or trying to invade their Discord servers and messaging them there. I don't know, man. Maybe that'll work, but how do you feel when an audio editor direct messages you on Facebook saying hey, do you need someone to edit your audio? It doesn't feel good. It's spammy. I respect the hustle, I guess, but nah, man, I'm not going to hire you. If I ever need to hire an audio editor, I'm not going to hire someone based off of a random spam. I'm going to hire someone based off of I'm going to reach out to my personal network of narrators that I know. I'm going to go hey, who among you have you used an audio editor, and who would you recommend? That's how I'm going to hire. And for getting audiobook work outside of ACX, the number one thing that has worked for me, because I have gotten a few, is face-to-face, real-life connections. I've done a couple. Go to book signings. Go to local author events. Be friendly with old people, the kind of people who write memoirs. The kind of people, the kind of academics who write things that are not properly textbooks, but things that are hey, it's not, it's not research per se, but it's just a topic that I was really fascinated by, and it didn't make it into any of my white papers, and it not something I was ever going to get, paid for to be in a textbook, but it was just too good. This research was too good just to let go to waste. So I just I threw it together, and it's only 50,000 words, but it's fine. Boom. And for those people, few $100 for what might be a five-hour audiobook, hey, $1,000 for them. Hey, that's a beautiful little vanity thing. Hey, my book is now, it's also an audio book. Oh, they get super jazzed about that kind of stuff, those academics. So those are the kinds of things that I've had happen. So just got to be a little creative. And creative doesn't mean spam. That doesn't mean a creative subject line to the email. You might actually have to put pants on and go and meet some people. That's worked for me. So let's do some audiobook work. Now, for this, I don't want to read my audiobook off of the big screen, the screen that you're seeing right here. Let's go back to, oh, I've just realized my little camera hasn't been up in the corner this entire time. That's so sad. Where's my little... There I am. Oh, how sad that I haven't been in the corner. So, as I was saying, I don't want to have the text up over here on the right side, to where I'm like reading over here and then trying to record over here. That is going to be very sad. I don't want to do that. So I think what we're going to do, okay, we're going to do open recent. Here's our audiobook. Go ahead and save that project. So what we're going to do, we're going to make Pro Tools full screen. Yeah, we're just going to do it like that. And then for any kind of chat notifications, maybe we put my phone up. How many screens do I need? I need 4 screens up. Let's see here. Does my phone with its charger reach all the way? Let me try to get a little creative here. First, we're going to go full screen with that. Then we're going to go back to Pro Tools, make Pro Tools full screen. So we're coming near the end of this book. You can see we've got all the way through chapter 32 recorded, all the way through chapter 29 edited and proofed. I color code the tracks light blue. That means they've been proofed and exported and uploaded. So the rights holder can listen to these and do whatever he wants. These haven't been edited or anything yet. So let's take a look at where I am at. So these are the 3 that have not been edited. What's remaining in this dang old... total remaining reading is roughly 4 hours and 40 minutes of reading. So I'd like to get 2 hours. If I could read 2 hours and 40 minutes today, that would make tomorrow finishing the book possible. Let's just do this real quick. Is this right? So if I could read for 3 hours today, that's right? Yeah. That'd be good. If I could read those 3 hours today, that would be good. I've been yapping a lot today already, though, so maybe I don't read all that. We'll do what I can. Let's close these 3. So what we're going to do for notifications. Maybe we do something like this. Yeah, we're going to use my phone. Help me, chat. How do I do this? I need another tab. Do I really need another screen, another tablet? I don't really need this entire window over here. I wish I could split the Pro Tools window entirely. What if I grab this? Oh, I hate that it's doing that. Please go back. Thank you. And obviously that's terrible. So let's see here. Because, yeah, if I pulled up, I guess I could do the split screen, Dank Chat, and YouTube on there as well. So, yeah. We'll just hang on. We just hang out, and I'll go ahead and do, actually, you know what I'll do? We're going to put you on the BRB screen, and I'm going to air out my booth a little bit. I've got the vent fans running on low, but I need some need some O2 to replenish, and it's also, what's the temperature in here? 75 degrees. So we're going to try to get it to cool down in here a little bit as well. So I'm going to put you on the BRB screen while we air out the booth a little bit. And I'm going to get my chat monitoring solution squared away while we do that. So BRB. All right. All right, we're back. All right. I think I figured out the best case scenario for what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be doing our audiobook action here. Now, as I said, we're going to be reading the old... this book here is called A Gateway to Galdish. It is book 4 of the Lauren Chronicles. And this series, man, it's really cool. It's basically an isekai series. If you don't know what isekai means, it's basically a sort of a subgenre of fantasy that was made very, very popular in Japanese literature and video games. It's basically when someone from the real world, the modern world as we know it, gets transported by some kind of means to some kind of fantastical world where maybe there's magic, maybe it's the rules are somehow different, but they've got their modern sensibilities, their real world sensibilities, and they're having to adapt and adjust and figure out the rules of this new world and how they fit in and how to survive and succeed and everything. And so this little adventure is one of those. Super pro tip here. Ice drops. These things are a lifesaver. If you want to see what they look like, let me go back to here and go, ice drops. This is a Scott Brick tip that I picked up actually for if you're feeling like you're getting a little bit of dry mouth, if you feel like you're getting smacky, rather than doing green apples or any of these other tricks or whatever that people will suggest. These things are amazing. For the longest time, they were basically the reasonably priced seller was sold out on Amazon for a long time. But they're back, and so now you can go on Amazon and you can buy this bad boy. This giant box of 50, I think it's 50 of them. I think there's 50 in here. Giant box of these. Took me quite a while to go through the last box, and I was really worried because I was down to my last couple. But then the reasonably priced seller became available. I think it was $40 for 50 of those, which is a good deal. But someone was trying to sell those for like $120 for a thing of 50 of them. I was like, Jesus, give me a break. But it's basically just mint, and xylitol is the ingredient that causes you to salivate a little bit, and it's no substitute for properly hydrating. Like you want to be hydrating, but I'm actually on some medication right now that causes dry mouth, which is a bit of a bummer for an audiobook narrator, but I'll only be on that for another like 2 weeks, so hopefully my misery will be not super long-lived. So I believe I have figured out my my situation here for how I'm going to be doing both the narrating and to still be able to monitor chat. And basically what I have to do is I have to pick one, YouTube or Twitch. And I'm very sorry, my YouTube friends, but I'm going to pick Twitch. So, if you're wanting to live YouTube chat, I'm not going to see it. I'm picking Twitch. So, I'm going to do my best. Another issue is I can't put my phone right in my line of sight, because then my phone is going to be so close to my microphone that I'm going to get those all of that sort of radio antenna frequency interference that is actually going to come through the recording and ruin everything. So I gotta also, let's see here, can we make it to where my phone will stop falling asleep? How do I quickly do that? I feel like such a boomer at this particular moment. Can I quickly do this without this being a huge disaster now that I'm like live on a camera? Display and brightness. Surely. Auto lock. 2 minutes. Never. Cool. And then, so I'm going to have this a bit off in my peripheral, but I should, especially anytime I need to glance down to make any adjustments, I should see chat, but again, it's only going to be Twitch chat. So my YouTube friends, I'm so sorry. Dear Twitch, please wake up. Stream manager. All right. That should be good now. Okay. Yeah, so that should be Gucci. So, as much as I would love to have the text up so that you could read along, out of respect for the author that I'm working with, I'm not going to do that. That I feel like is a very obvious step too far. The author has given me the go-ahead to live stream narration, but putting the text up on screen, we're not doing that. So we're going to be live streaming the narration. We are starting at chapter 33, so you're going to be missing a lot of this story. So spoiler alerts are going to abound here. Now, trigger warnings. Not really going to be anything here trigger warning wise. This book is there's some language. It's not gratuitous. It's light. There's an occasional F-bomb, but it's not gratuitous. I don't think there's going to be anything, the descriptions of violence, there's fighting, there's battles, but it's not gratuitous. I have live narrated on this stream another series that had some pretty graphic stuff, but this isn't like that. This is I would put this pretty squarely like right in the rut between PG and R. Yeah, it's not meant for the young adults, but it's young adults who can handle their shit. That's where this book lies, It's a good series that it's not so bleak and horrible that makes you feel wow, I don't want my kid. It's good stuff. So do I want to give any kind of background, or do we want to just go into it? I mean, we're not here to hear a story. We're here to learn the craft. So let's talk about the craft. We're still in chat mode. Let's go into Pro Tools, the Pro Tools view, and let me make sure that we're seeing the right view here. Yep. So I will be doing, again, just like we were for the voiceover auditions earlier, we're doing punch and roll here. So I'm going to be yada, yada, yada-ing. And if I make a mistake, I will stop the recording. I will back up. I didn't realize, so there's been a lot of discussion about punch and roll lately in the Facebook groups for the audiobook narration Facebook groups. And people are talking about where do you put your mouse cursor and stuff? And I'm just whoa. Mouse cursor? Your mouse? Who's touching their mouse when they're doing punch and roll? The whole point of punch and roll is that so you can roll and roll and roll. You got to be quick. I'm not touching my mouse. Unless something weird has happened, unless something really strange has happened, I'm not touching my mouse while I'm recording. Everything is hotkeys, and the 3 hotkeys that I've got here, and I'll show you as I navigate here, and we'll actually just for the sake of demonstrating here, we're going to pretend that these are 4 distinct audio clips. I just copied and pasted this, but we're going to pretend that these are 4 different audio clips here. The way that I move around in Pro Tools, I tab to jump forward to the next edit point. Each of these cuts between these clips is an edit point. So I press tab and it jumps me forward. If I need to jump back, control tab. Tab to go forward, control tab to go backwards. And over here on the numbers side, I can press It's 1 and 2 to go forward a second or backward a second. Forward, backward, forward, backward. I can also hold one of those keys to shuttle. So between tab 1 and 2, I can zoom, zoom, zoom. So I'm already, right now I'm at the very beginning. If I want to get quickly, right now I'm going to do it with my mouse. If I want to set my punch to right here, which would realistically, just looking at the waveform, realistically I would want to be there. But let's say I'm right here at the very beginning. Here's how quickly I would get there. That's it. And the whole point is efficiency. When I'm actually recording, my posture, the way I'm sitting, both hands are basically, my keyboard is on my knees. Sorry, you can't see this right now, but trust me, my hands are basically on my lap. My keyboard's on my lap. My hands are sort of comfortably just resting on the keyboard to where I can just hit 1, 2, 1, 2, tab, control tab, tab, control tab. And it's just a glance to the side to look at my monitor, just to bounce around, fine control there to put my cursor exactly where I want it, rather than reaching over, grabbing my mouse, clicking it. This reach over to grab my mouse to click it around where I want it, that is such an interruption in my posture. Suddenly my mouth has moved away from my microphone, whereas when I'm doing punch and roll, my mouth is right where it needs to be for narrating. My line of sight is right on the text that I'm narrating where it needs to be, and it's just a glance to the side to set my cursor up exactly where I want it. And then the next hotkey, it's really great in Pro Tools that I didn't even have to set this up as a custom thing. So 1 and 2 is to move back and forward. 3 is to record. And I start talking along with myself, and then suddenly we're recording our new track. And then once I make my next mistake, boom, I hit space. And Pro Tools always stops you at the beginning of that thing. So basically, when I hit space, I know I'm immediately going to hit tab, and then I'm probably going to hit 1, and that's probably going to put me pretty close to where I'm going to need to go ahead and hit 3 again. And then honestly, like sometimes it's as quick as hitting space, tab, 1, and then 3 to record again. And that's how quick. And you'll see, basically, like the number one thing that slows me down is just my ability to read the English language. Like, you'll see, warts and all, it's not a pretty process, but all of the pain of this process is purely my ability to make my tongue move and produce the words. The software is not the pain. My ability to navigate through the timeline is not the pain. Like, eliminate every pain point that you're able to in your workflow, because that's unnecessary. You can control all that. I don't know of any way to like train or trick my brain into like reading better. Like, maybe there's like hypnosis or something. Like, maybe there is a way. I don't know of it. But every way that I've been able to squeeze a little bit more efficiency and speed and just quality of life, just make my life easier working in Pro Tools, I feel like I've done it. So all the people out there, like even that I just did, that was a little lame. You know, an easier way to select everything on a track? Triple click. Boom. Like, just stuff like that. Like, learn your software. Learn your DAW. Don't be afraid of it. If you have to create a whole new project just for messing around, record some scratch audio and start messing around. Start just screwing around and playing with different shortcuts. Create some new shortcuts and just see what they do. That's the way you'll get better. That's the way you'll get faster. There's so much that I could do. Like, I know that there are like I've never even like gotten into scripting, but I know I could. Anyway, that's enough of that. Real quick, little fun thing that I do for myself. So this is my big crazy sort of master timesheet, if you will. This column is the actual time that it has taken me to record each chapter. So this is chapter 1, chapter 2. Chapter 1 took me 36 minutes, 28 seconds, and so on and so forth. I have done this for every single book I have done since book 1. I've refined it as I've gone, but after 40... I'm on book 43 now, I think. After over 40 books, this iteration has been in use for quite some time now. The cool thing is that in this column is an estimate. And this estimate learns as I go. So for every additional number that goes into this column gets a little bit more accurate. It's kind of cool. But at first, this estimate is based purely on the page numbers, which I enter in manually. So this next chapter is 16 pages, and based on my pace of narrating, and I'm 82% of the way through reading this book, this chapter should take me 43 minutes to narrate. So, take a big drink of water. I've got a separate little timer here that I use on my Stream Deck so that I'm not having to like Alt-Tab or use another device or whatever. I'm just using the Stream Deck. That makes life super, super easy. Make sure everything here is good to go. You can hear everything there. You can hear the Pro Tools loopback. Yeah, it should be good to go. All right. So, yeah. This should be about 43 minutes of narrating. And I don't think I'm going to really stop and explain stuff. Like, you're just going to see punch and roll narration. If someone pops into, like I say, I can see Twitch chat. If someone pops in with a question, I'll pause my timer. And yeah, we can have a chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to be working. In fact, I'll put a thing in the chat here. Narrating. There we go. And do this and pin it. Boom. And yeah, so this is book 4 of this series. The first 3 books are available on Audible. Well, the third might still be processing. The first 2 are for sure on sale. So go out and buy them. But yeah, we should be good to go here now. So, I'm basically just going to hit record here and then we'll have some fun. All right. Okay, what's happening here? We're going to be preparing for the big battle. So you're coming in at a fun time. Here we go. Check 1. All right, we are going to be good. Here we go. Chapter 33. Eli made his careful way through the lights room. Chapter 33. Eli made his careful way through the Light's Victory, the big ship's wider passageways, helping to keep things from being too crowded. A lot of folks also seemed pretty quick to move aside when they saw him approaching, stepping against the far wall to let him and his guards pass. Saskia and Rowan quietly trailed behind as Eli ambled along, unsure where he was even going. The lack of needing to unbind or heal anyone had left him with a lot of time on his hands, far more than he was used to. Eli's schedule wasn't exactly packed, other than some meetings with Wolf, Malatia, and others to go over the plans for their arrival in Pallium tomorrow, leaving him without anything pressing to do. Eli had finished stumbling his way through the Codex a while ago, though he wasn't feeling too confident about understanding everything, and had already started going back to review the more confusing sections. His friends had also loaned him some books on all sorts of topics to study, but he could only take so much reading before his eyes started straying from the page, his attention resolutely wandering away. With Eli and his people soon heading into a battle zone, he'd spent some time practicing his inscriptions, including perfecting a couple of new fireballs to address some weaknesses in his previous designs. Hoping to be prepared, he had dozens of additional spell scrolls tucked away in his DS, ready for use. Sadly, Barrick's suggestion about a healing spell scroll from several weeks ago was proving far more challenging, and Eli had already burned through a lot of spell paper in his many failed attempts. Even worse, he wasn't sure what the problem was, as his limited supplies continued flashing away into nothing, leaving him feeling all the more leery of wasting more. Fluxy was working on getting him a fresh supply of spell paper, but there was no guarantee the woman would be successful by the time Eli gained another level. The little he had left might have to last him a while, and he'd stopped his experiments while carefully rationing the rest. Sudden laughter drew Eli's focus toward the open door on the far end of the passageway, and he noted quite a lot of colorful stick figures. And he noted quite a lot of colorful stick figures gathered in the passenger's mess, apparently having a good time. He'd already visited the one used by the crew earlier in his wanderings, but all their nervous glances had prompted him to move along pretty quickly. Hoping for a better reaction this time, Eli headed for the fun, and Saskia obviously figured out his intentions, darting forward so she could enter first. The pair of guards at the door moved aside as Eli walked in, and he grinned at the big room's party-like scroll. Atmosphere. Most of the tables were occupied with people wearing the Eosoni squad's dark off-duty outfits, though some others in casual clothing were sprinkled around. There were also several ship's crew in red and white checkered livery moving along. Among the diners, carrying plates and platters of drinks. A lot of eyes swung Eli's way, and he gestured for everyone to remain at ease, not wanting to be a buzzkill, though sadly more than a few expressionless faces were suddenly sprouting around. The room, despite his best efforts. Subcommander Aldero got up from his seat with a cheerful expression, looking at Eli and making a beckoning wave. The three people at Aldero's table rose as well, revealing Carlasta and her familiar smile. The other man and woman were also in the squad's off-duty outfits, their faces somewhat familiar. Eli was glad for the warmer welcome and headed over,
trying to ignore the stiff postures from the other diners while walking past their tables. He briefly considered dropping his aura down, but figured that would only make matters worse. Eli, okay. But figured that would only make matters worse. We've got a loud vehicle passing. Loud vehicles. But figured that would only make matters worse. Sub-Commander Aldero and Talent Carlasta, it's good to see you. Eli happily greeted the smiling pair. And Talent Carlasta, it's good to see you. Eli happily greeted the smiling pair before looking at their two stiff-faced companions, finally recognizing them. Talent Sanley and Restri, right? We met in Pendle? It is an honor, Sanley said with a bow. Restri echoed his words and gesture, the woman's voice barely above a whisper. Mind if I join you? Eli asked, waving a hand toward their table. Not at all, Aldero replied with an easy air as he returned to his seat. The man's three companions did the same, though Restri shifted around to sit beside Sanley on the wooden bench to let Eli have one side of the square. Table to himself. A server was quick to come over when Eli sat down, and he asked for an order of whatever everyone else was having. Aldero's group was already in the middle of their meal, and from the looks of it, dinner was some sort of cubed meat and veggies. In a dark sauce tossed onto a plate of rice. What were you all talking about before I interrupted? Eli asked, nodding thanks as one of the servers put a big mug down in front of him, the strong smell of beer wafting by. Aldero smiled slyly, making a small swirling gesture with one hand. We were discussing our impressions on Light's victory and comparing it against the stories we had heard about this powerful vessel. Carlasta laughed lightly, her eyes dancing with amusement. I first saw Light's victory from my family's rooftop garden years ago, when Diadar Arak visited Donkala. I recall it... I recall it soaring majestically toward the city's skyport, and this skyship's sheer size made it escorting vessels soaring majestically toward the city's skyport, and this skyship's sheer size made its escorting vessels seem almost puny in comparison. Eli certainly wasn't about to argue with her, since this skyship was more like a super yacht at a little over 200 meters long and 7 decks high. Only this sucker also sported some hidden power sources between its double-hulled structure. According to his recent briefing, the Light's victory should be capable of holding its own against any other single vessel in the sky, though that hopefully wouldn't be necessary for their trip. Unfortunately, this big skyship's thick hull gave off enough light to reduce Manasite's usefulness, and the tiny energy sources Eli was used to seeing along the ground below were now mostly washed out by the sheer power all around him. At least Aura Sight had no problems, and he could track the thousands of colorful auras from the people living in the various settlements. No problems, and he could track the thousands of colorful auras from the people living in the various settlements. And cities periodically passing beneath their vessel. I'd say the Light's victory is an upgrade over our cramped and bumpy ride out to Canrick's family farm. Did I say that all right? I think I did, yeah. bumpy ride out to Canrick's family farm, Eli said, grinning as he looked from Aldero to Carlasta. Truth, Aldero agreed. Let's get that gap right. To Carlasta. Truth, Aldero agreed with a soft chuckle. I have served on several different skyships and traveled aboard many others during my time in the squads, and I can honestly say I have never seen its equal. Their conversation paused when the server returned, and Eli nodded thanks as his plate of food was put down in front of him. The heaping mound of rice, covered with nearly as much meat and veggies, drew some surprised glances from the others at his table, with Aldero quietly shaking his head in amusement. It takes a lot to keep me fed, Eli joked, patting his flat stomach, which earned him a couple of smiles. What do you both think of the Light's victory? Which earned him a couple of smiles. What do you both think of the which earned him a couple of smiles. What do you both think of the Light's victory? He asked, looking at Sanley and Ristri. What do you both think of the Light's victory? He asked, looking at Sanley and Ristri. I don't have Aldero's experience, but he asked, looking at Sanley and Ristri. I don't have Aldero's experience, but this is definitely the most impressive skyship I've seen so far. Eli's direct question seemed to help Sanley come out of his shell a little more, and the young man expressed his admiration for this skyship in glowing terms, with big gestures to help describe his awe at the vessel's sheer size. In sharp comparison, Ristri only shed a few words, but with the woman's apparent shyness, that felt like its own win. Eli glanced around as they continued their meal, glad to see people starting to relax at the other tables, noting the many conversations were already growing louder, their laughter their laughing chatter soon filling the room. ... Quick note on why I just said ... For chapter breaks, not chapter breaks, like section breaks. Like there's literally like 3 asterisks. If you've got a book where they do like some little filigree to like denote a passage of time or a shift in point of view or something like that, scene change of some kind. This ... is basically what I'm doing instead of like a dog clicker. This is the one spot where I'm doing something so that visually, when I come to this spot later when I'm editing, I will see like, oh, that's a ... That's somewhere where I've said ... And this is a spot where I'm going to have, before I start editing, I'm going to have copied up here this particular bit of room tone right here. It is exactly 2 seconds. And I'll basically show you what that looks like so that I don't have to like repeat it. But basically, if I were to keep reading right here, ... Here's the next part of the chapter, yada, yada, yada. So basically, when I'm editing later and I'm just zooming, and I get to here and I go like, oh, here's a ... Like, it's just clear. That's absolutely what this is. There's nothing else this could be. I just select from silence to silence, including there. I don't have to hit delete. I don't have to hit cut. I don't have to do. I just hit that selection, and then I hit paste, and in that spot goes my 2 seconds of room tone. Done. And then I can just continue to hit tab and move along to the next edit point. Beautiful. This is just the method that I have found that works for me for making those section breaks super, super easy to recognize visually while I'm editing. It's super easy to narrate, to deal with what. So it's easy on both ends. On the narration front, I just say ... and move on. And then on the editing front, I visually recognize it. I select, I hit paste, and I move on. A little tip for you. Hope that helps. Let's see here. Here's a little nifty gadget. This is a, it's not drugs. This is called the Vocal Mist. It is a nebulizer. Right now in my booth, because of all the heating going on, the humidity in my booth is 15%. That's insanely dry. It is so dry in here. So my vocal cords are super, super dry. This little nebulizer thing, it takes these little saline, it's basically just salt water. You just like pop one of these open, you pour it in the top, you press the little button, and it's just a little dose, a little shot of extra hydrated air. Really, really helpful. A couple weeks ago, I was having crazy sinus, just like the first few chapters of this book. Like, I can hear it. Hopefully listeners can't, but I can hear it. But I was basically like cupping this against my nose and like snorting this like saltwater air. It was helpful. But this was a lovely gift from my partner. She got this for me like a year or two ago, and like this thing always stays in here, and like this gets daily use. This thing's awesome. Like, highly recommend. I don't think it was a cheap gift, but if you're trying to do this and you've got loved ones who are like, oh, what can I get you for Christmas or birthday? That's a good gift idea. To like just say, hey, buy me one of these. The Vocal Mist. Not sponsored content. Double checking that we're still good. How long has this stream been going? 2 hours, 14 minutes. All right. We're schmoving. We're rocking and rolling. I guess we'll quickly check YouTube. Is anyone trying to chat with me on YouTube? Feel bad for the YouTubers. It's because Twitch is just like, no, you can't overlay YouTube and Twitch chat. No. All right. Okay. So we've done chapter break. We're at 12 minutes on this, so we've got about 30 more minutes to narrate in this particular chapter. So let's go. Loud vehicle passing. Waiting. Do a little bit of ice drops. All right. Dot, dot, dot. Eli walked down the passageway, nodding at the respectful salutes from several warriors moving out of his path. This entire deck was occupied by Kotalo's. I'm zoomed in too much. There we go. It's from several warriors moving out of his path. This entire deck was occupied by Kotalo's squad, though only those actually on duty were in armor, while the rest wore their off-duty clothes. Following along behind Eli's guards were Malatia and then Fasudo, who was acting... Guards were Malatia and then Fasudo, who was acting like the blonde woman's silent shadow. They were all coming in... like the blonde woman's silent shadow. They were all coming from the same training session, which had confirmed that Malatia's people were prepared to do their part in the upcoming operation. The Iasoni didn't screw around. Come on. Their part in the upcoming operation. We're gonna push through without that breath, which had confirmed that. Loud vehicle. I live on the main road, and I've got a house between me and there, but it's still heavy trucks can still get through these walls, you know?
Which had confirmed that
Malatia's people were prepared.
which had confirmed
That Malatia's people were prepared to do their part.
which had confirmed
That Malatia's people were prepared to do their part in the upcoming operation. The Iasoni didn't screw around with security, even aboard a ship entirely crewed and protected by their people. So Eli's party had to pause outside their destination's door for one more check. Still, he certainly wasn't bothered by the small amount of time it took to confirm his identity before being allowed to pass into the planning room. Eli noted
before being allowed to pass into the plant
room. Eli noted Cotalo and Wolf were already present, standing with Aldero and Carlasta, while behind them,
standing with Aldero and
Carlasta, while behind them, no, I have to preserve that breath.
standing with Aldero
And Carlasta, while behind them, Reva and Gareth were working on the big map. Okay.
standing with Aldero
And Carlasta, while behind them, Reva and Gareth were working on the big map hanging on the wall.
standing with Aldero and
Carlasta, while behind them, Reva and Gareth were working on the big map hanging on the wall, shifting the little markers around. The room's 2 rows of seats were empty, though that would change once the rest of the squad's specialists arrived.
the room's 2 rows of
Seats were empty, though that would change once the rest of the squad's specialists arrived for their briefing.
the room's 2 rows of seats
Were empty, though that would change once the rest of the squad's specialists arrived for their briefing. Eli's entrance drew eyes from around the room. "I'm guessing we got some news?" he asked, heading for the map. Information moved relatively slowly in this society, with bursts requiring a lot of power to send a few sentences, and even then the giant devices were only housed in big cities, severely limiting their use. Farspeaks worked fine for short range, usually no more than 10 kilometers, though you needed to be rich or fortunate to have one. For anything long distance, most relied on special messenger services that employed both skyships and runners, though
employed both skyships and
runners, though that would
that employed both skyships
and runners, though that would still mean multiple weeks to traverse the hundreds of kilometers separating the Alliance's cities. Obviously, that wasn't good enough for some of the ruling families and merchant guilds, who had the wealth and connections to station Farspeak relays along major all the way back to here.
kilometers separating the Alliance's
Cities. Obviously, that wasn't good enough for some of the ruling families and merchant guilds, who had the wealth and connections to station Farspeak relays along major trade routes. All they needed was a trained person with a shoebox-sized device, and they could pass messages along to any authorized individuals or skyships, like the Light's Victory. Eli reached
skyships like the Light's Victory. Skyships like the Light's
Victory. Eli reached the giant map of Pallium hanging on the wall, where Reva and Gareth were still adjusting the tiny markers around, and while the pair certainly made better doors than
Gareth were still adjusting the tiny
markers around, and while the pair certainly made better doors than windows, Eli caught enough glimpses to understand the minor changes since the last time he was here. The Southerners had been shifting their lines over the last few
changes since the last time he was here.
The Southerners had been shifting their lines over the past few days from being mostly clustered in the southwest to now being more evenly spread around Pallium. They still had a lot of bunching at their suspected gateway, with one of the enemy's legions with one of the enemy legion's flowery metal figures stationed there, but that was entirely expected. Their forces still had some gaps around the river's banks, though the ground was supposed to be marshy and a hydrants.
Still had some gaps around the river's
along. I always do that.
but that was entirely expected.
Super loud truck.
But that was entirely expected.
But that was entirely expected. But that was entirely expected. Their forces still had some gaps along the rivers but that was entirely expected. Their forces still had some gaps along the river's banks, though the ground was supposed to be marshy and a hindrance to any large group who tried to cross it. According to the last update from earlier today, the Southerners had recently unleashed some powerful new weapons that were quickly stripping away Pallium's magical protections. Causing explosions violent enough to cause casualties among the defenders, though without doing much damage to the walls. However, once those energized barriers dropped,
No, that's terrible.
to cause casualties among the defenders, though without doing much damage to the walls. However, once those energized barriers dropped, the enemy
Hello?
However, once those energized barriers dropped, the enemy legions would have multiple avenues for ripping apart the unpowered and exposed stone fortifications. "We have an update from Pallium," Wolf said in an even...
Come on.
"We have an
Ooh, nasty.
and exposed stone fortifications. We have an update from Pallium. And exposed stone fortifications. We have an update from Pallium," Wolf said in an even tone, joining Eli near the map. "House Rinthal is clearly preparing for the assault we have all been expecting. One of their legions has moved closer to the portion of the wall they have been bombarding, and the barriers are likely to fail in the next 6 hours. They shall find a poor welcome."
Kotalo is...
Likely to fail in the next 6 hours.
They shall find a poor welcome, Kotalo predicted.
They shall find a poor
Welcome, Kotalo predicted.
They shall find a
Poor welcome, Kotalo predicted grimly as Aldero and Gareth quietly...
They shall find a poor
Welcome, Kotalo predicted grimly as Aldero and Gareth quietly stepped away, apparently done with... Wait a minute. So, something that I do for my rights holders, authors, is I collect typos. I put them together, and at the end of the project, I deliver a collection of all the typos that I've found. And in this case, if you've been listening very closely, which I know you have, we've just read twice that at the map are Reva and Gareth, right? Reva and Gareth. I'm looking at it right now. Reva and Gareth. And now I just narrated that Aldero and Gareth were fiddling with the map. So I'm going to mark that my narrating, the software that I'm reading off of. I'm not just reading off of like the Kindle software. I'm reading off of Xodo, Xodo, because I'm not reading off an iPad. I'm reading off of a jailbroken Kindle. Xodo is a fine solution. With every update, they get a little bit more and more annoying, and it seems like someday they're gonna fully pull the rug and try to go like pay us, or we're gonna completely hide all of the useful functions of this behind a monthly subscription, at which point I'll go, okay, bye. But until that day happens, I'll continue using it. But it makes it really easy to like quickly tap and mark something as a typo. So in this case, I'm marking the name Aldero. Aldero was not at the map. Reva is at the map. So I am going to read Reva
And then later, I'm going to send in my little typo report, hey, Reva is at the map. You wrote it as Aldero. I read it as Reva. If you disagree, if you like really want to be like, no, like suddenly Aldero was at the map and Reva disappeared, and like that's a sneaky little thing that I just decided to put into the scene. Like this author in particular is very, very like, oh my God, thank you for spotting that. He's very, very, very good about accepting my graciously accepting when I catch stuff. So I feel quite confident that this is an oopsie, especially given that Reva and Aldero, I don't know, the names are similar enough that it makes sense to me. So our punch position is still good to go. So I just have to mentally remember it's marked. So I should remember to say Reva and not Aldero. So here we go.
They shall find a poor...
Welcome, Kotalo predicted grimly as Reva and Gareth quietly stepped away, apparently done with updating the map. My last tour of Pallium might have been years ago, but I well remember the Waldrick's brave warriors protecting the city's stout walls. Truth, Wolf grunted, crossing his arms. Blessed Otter and several other powerful Waldricks will make a difference, hopefully enough to help hold off those filthy Southerners for a while longer. Malatia Otter. I need to check. This is a bummer with something that has so many... I'm going to briefly... Here's what we're going to do. We're going to briefly come off the screen so that I can search for if I've got that pronunciation somewhere. I don't think I do. I didn't think so. So now I need to see if I have read this name in any of the previous books. So we're going to quickly open up. Oh boy. Okay, audiobook backups. We're going to look in the previous book, which is called Fate's Tempest. I don't think it is. OTTAR. Okay, it's not in the previous book. Let's look in the book before that, which is called Harbinger Ascendant. Find OTTAR. It's not in that one, and I doubt it's in the first book, but we'll check. Eyes of the Sign is what that one's called. OTTAR. Not in that one. Okay. And actually, we'll check that I don't think I've said it this far in this book. That would be a very silly thing to forget, but we'll double check that I haven't said it so far in this book. So we'll make sure we're here and go OTTAR. And okay, so this is the very, very first time in this series that I'm saying this name. So something that I've done, and this is good advice if you're dealing with a rights holder who is the same person as the author. Not always the case. Or if you're dealing with a rights holder and you have access to the author. You don't always have access to the author. I've worked with like publishers where it's like, no, you're not talking with the author. I've also worked with publishers where it's like the author is copied on all emails and there's communication and stuff. But anytime you get to communicate with the author, it's great because, especially if you've got something where there's lots of made up words and stuff, made up languages, things like that. Fantasy, sci-fi, all that kind of stuff. Very good. So with this, I've got a really good working relationship with this author, and I'll actually show it to you. That's all fine. I'll show it to you here in the Pro Tools project. What I've got here. Let's go back to Pro Tools here. The very top track here. The track title, I know it's very small, but this track title is called Pronunciations. And this audio up here, it's not me. Well, kind of is me. But all these up here. So let's see here. How do I say this word? Well, guess whose voice this is going to be?
You saw the red? You saw the red? You saw the red?
Dusagared. That is the author's voice. Did a phone call with the author. You got to pre-read every book before you start. I pre-read the book, and I, using my little Zodo reader, highlighted all the proper nouns and like weird language words or whatever, all the things that I wanted to make sure I pronounced them according to the author's wishes. And just basically made a big list of all the words and did a call, put them on speakerphone, and I hit record in Pro Tools, and I just held the phone basically near to the microphone and just recorded the phone call that way. It's pretty low tech. I probably could have used like a recording app within the phone, but I was like, no, this is going to work. It's going to be fine. And I do have like the Word documents to where I can like quickly search. That's why I was searching. I'll even show you, like, I just searched in Chrome, and that would have searched the multiple Google Docs that we used to build these word lists that he basically went through line by line and read all the words. So I know that for whatever reason, I just kind of I speed read a little bit. I don't read super close when I do a pre-read of these books. I just missed the word Ottar, O-T-T-A-R. I didn't mark that to get this author's pronunciation. Now it's not too late. I could text him right now. Hey, how do you want me to say Ottar? Otar. But this author, this is the 4th book they've hired me for. I've narrated over 40 audiobooks. I'm the professional. This author has trusted me to tell this story, and so I'm going to make the executive decision. I'm going to decide how this name is going to be pronounced. I'm not going to go to mommy. How do you want this pronounced? Because that could get annoying really quickly. How do you want this pronounced? How do you want this pronounced? And if the first time this person is being mentioned is 80% of the way through book 4 in the series, they're probably not going to be a major character who comes up all the time. So probably not going to be super important. So now we got to decide I'm not going to say otter, but Otar. Now the Waldrick family, whose city of Pallium, Waldrick, Otar. We're going to say Ottar. And I'm not even going to mark it. So the reason I was like looking through, I brought up all the other books here, is the other little bit more tedious form of research that I could have done is if I had said this in, say, book 2, I could have found, like, okay, this name comes up in, like, chapter 17 in book 2. It's on, it's like 3 pages into chapter 17. I'd go to my own audio. I'd find chapter 17.mp3 or whatever, and I would find it until I found where I said that name. And that's how I would reproduce it. I've done it many times in this series so far. In a perfect world, I would have a perfect spreadsheet where I've got all the names, perfectly. I ain't got time for that. I know that there are people who people talk about the I annotate, they talk about highlighting every single line of dialogue in a special color for every single character. And I'm just like, man, who's got time for that? Go. We gotta move through these. It ain't that serious. And again, I'm not being flippant. I do take this job very seriously, but this is what we do as a craft. It's not, there's a difference between art, whole cloth art. And that's, to me, the art is more what the author is doing. The author is creating is creating art. They're creating these words from nothing. I am practicing a craft. I am taking what they have provided me. They've provided me raw materials, these words, and I am refining it into audio. I'm using the skills and the tools at my disposal, and I'm refining this raw material of words, this art that has been given to me, and I'm refining it into a saleable product for market. I'm a craftsman. And if you're going to be way more serious about it than that, and if you want to spend 2 weeks marking up your script, by all means. During that time, I'm going to do 2 more audiobooks. And then you're going to complain about, well, why are there no books on ACX? Because I got them all while you were marking up your script. Welcome to the salty stream.
Filthy Southerners for a while longer. Malatia what?
I said Ottar is what I'm going to say. I'm going to just say Ottar. It's going to be fun. It's the only damn time I'm going to say this whole name. Okay.
Filthy Southerners for a while longer. Other powerful Waldricks will make it.
Here we go. All right, here we go.
Truth, Wolf grunted, crossing his arms. Blessed Otter and...
Yep.
Truth, Wolf grunted.
Let's start my timer again.
Truth, Wolf grunted,
Crossing his arms. Blessed...
Truth, Wolf grunted,
crossing his arms. Blessed Ottar and several other powerful
Truth, Wolf grunted,
crossing his arms. Blessed Ottar and several other... Oh my God.
Truth, Wolf grunted, crossing his
arms. Blessed Ottar and several other powerful Waldricks will make a difference. Hopefully enough.
Several other powerful Waldricks
Will make a difference. Hopefully enough to help hold off those filthy Southerners for a while longer. Malatia walked up with a slight frown. How long until we reach the area? Approximately 4 hours, Wolf answered, gesturing toward the map. Seems like Wolf is still talking,
Wolf answered, gesturing toward the
map. With this new information, we can now rule out any potential landing zones too close to the enemy's locations, which leaves us with a few favorable options to the north and northeast, especially one particular hilltop not far from the trade road. About a dozen different spots were marked out on the map, forming a rough half-circle around the northern half of Pallium.
Different spots were marked out on the map,
forming a rough half-circle around the northern half of Pallium, some nearly intersecting the Southerners' updated
half-circle around the northern half of
Pallium, some nearly intersecting
half-circle around the northern half-circle around the northern half of
Pallium, some nearly intersecting the Southerners' updated positions. Of the few that were furthest away, one was right next to a thin line heading toward the main road that would eventually lead south to the city, a little over 20 kilometers away. Kotalo gave a thoughtful nod.
Kotalo gave a thoughtful nod.
I prefer that location to the other 2 likely sites closer to the...
Kotalo gave a thoughtful
nod. I prefer that location to the other 2 likely sites closer to the river. Pilot Thorane is confident he can use the nearby hills.
2 likely sites closer to the river.
Pilot Thorane is confident he can use the nearby hills to conceal our approach, and the trees along the slope should further hide us from detection until our defenses are in place.
Until our defenses are in place.
Is Thorane still okay with me setting up there during our landing?
Until our defenses are in place.
Is Thorane still okay with me sitting up there during our landing? Eli asked, remembering from Anchel's lesson how it was polite to get permission before venturing into a skyship's pilot. Anchel, that is her name, yeah.
Remembering from Anchel's
lessons how it was polite to get permission before venturing into a skyship's pilot house. Oh yes, Pilot Thorane confirmed you are more than welcome, Kotalo replied. We are all concerned with Master Robley's reports of a peak threat, and we will want every ARC specialist available to be on the lookout for this potential danger.
ARC specialist available to be
On the lookout for this potential danger, which includes talent Reva. See, Reva is standing nearby.
Danger, which includes talent
Reva. The red-headed woman standing nearby nodded, her expression wooden. After speaking with nearby nodded, her expression wooden. After speaking with Nineveh, another Sagruda, Eli better understood how Reva's gift worked. Apparently, they were like empaths, feeling the emotions of those around them, but this extra sense could be difficult to control, so they often took medicines like mentat to help. Extra sense could be difficult to control, so they often took medicines like mentat to help. However, when a Sagruda activated their gift, they often took medicines like mentat to help. However, when a Sagruda activated their gift, the emotions they were sensing and their own feelings were suppressed. At the same time, they would see visual representations of the auras around them, which sounded like subjective images based on the individual Sagruda's background. Regardless, with proper training, the gift was capable of detecting all sorts of dangers at a distance, including the giant orange man who nearly killed Nineveh. A slight commotion drew Eli's gaze toward the door as Vestum, Sanley, Ristri, and the rest of the squad's specialists walked in as a group. At sealing Eli... Nope. Door as Vestum, Sanley, Ristri, and the rest of the squad's specialists walked in as a group. At seeing Eli already here, a few of their expressions turned embarrassed, even though he was the one who'd shown up early while they were on time. Everyone, please take your seats so we can begin. Everyone, please take your seats so we can begin our briefing, Kotalo directed, gesturing toward the empty chairs. ... Another break. ... Eli shifted in his seat, wondering for probably the 20th time why they didn't bother... wondering for probably the 20th time why they didn't upholster these things better. He would have expected the chairs in the Sky House to be more comfortable. Though the past couple of hours had proved otherwise, and even having plenty of legroom wasn't making up for the lack of good cushioning. For his backside. Beside him, Wolf didn't seem to be having any problem. Beside him, Wolf didn't seem to be having any problems. The man had barely moved since sitting down an hour ago, other than to extend his legs out into the large footwell. Kotalo seemed similarly relaxed on the starboard side of the room, even though the man was wearing his full leather armor. Perhaps the only sign of any discomfort was him taking his helmet off earlier, which he now held in his lap. That will get edited. Comfort was him taking his helmet off earlier, which he now held in his lap. Reva's posture was almost painfully rigid next to the commander, her expression lacking any emotion. Manasight confirmed she was definitely using a gift, though Aurasight showed nothing particularly interesting beyond the firm shield surrounding the woman's body. Morning, someone announced in a professional voice from the back of the room. Rocky slope, closing 90 meters to port. Acknowledged, Thorane replied calmly, still reclined in his pilot's chair near the center of the room, the man's hands resting casually on the control consoles on either side of him. Eli glanced toward the viewport. Eli glanced toward the viewport at the front of the room, the glow from its specially treated glass a bit distracting, but not enough to keep him from seeing the hillside off to the left, slowly creeping their way. A low, rumbling roar sounded on Eli's left as the portside thrusters came to life, and the rock wall slipped slowly out of sight. But then a jagged hillside and the rock wall slipped slowly out of sight. But then a jagged hillside appeared on their right, and the starboard thrusters briefly thundered, easing them back into the middle of a narrow canyon before quieting again. Ever since leaving Galdish, the rain had kept the Victory's sails furled, choosing not to rely on the fickle winds when they were in a rush. Instead, the thrusters had rumbled on the fickle winds when they were in a rush. Instead, the thrusters had rumbled day and night, their deep, steady thrum becoming almost background noise, until nearly an hour ago when they softened to barely a whisper. The skyship's speed had dropped to what felt like barely a crawl, but they suspected the Southerners had at least some scouts operating in the hills north of Pallium, and sounds tended to carry surprisingly far. The rain also reduced their altitude to just above the trees to further conceal their approach. Was that audible? Nope. To further conceal their approach. The besieged city was still a good distance away, on the other side of a small reservoir and some more hills, though it was hard to be sure. What their enemy was capable of, and there was no need to check. Chances now. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby beyond some scattered auras along the slopes and the dry river. And there was no need to take chances now. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous beyond. And there was no need to take chances now. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby beyond some scattered auras along the slopes and the dry river. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby. Nearby. Oh my God. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby. Oh my God. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby beyond some scattered auras along the slopes and the dry riverbed below them. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby beyond some scattered auras. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby beyond some scattered auras along the slopes and the dry riverbed below them.
No way.
Couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby beyond some scattered auras along the slopes and the dry river.
You gotta be kidding me.
Couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby. Eli couldn't detect anything dangerous nearby beyond some scattered auras along the slopes and the dry riverbed.
We're gonna
beyond some scattered auras along the slopes and the dry riverbed below them. The last sizable group had been some fortified settlement in the foothills further to the north, with nothing particularly threatening or all that interesting since then. 1 kilometer to Deadfisher Lake. Threatening or all that interesting since then. 1 kilometer to... Threatening or all that interesting since then. 1 kilometer to Deadfisher... Oh my God. All that interesting since then. 1 kilometer to Deadfisher Lake. Threatening or all that interesting since then. 1 kilometer to Deadfisher Lake, the navigator said, a hint of tension entering her tone. Increasing altitude, the rain replied. Increasing a hint of tension entering her tone. Increasing altitude, the rain replied, and the man's hands
Increasing altitude,
Thorane replied, and the man's hands barely twitched, his omniscience giving a little flicker. The dry riverbed seemed to descend away from them, their rise gradual enough to feel like they were in a slow-moving elevator.
dry riverbed seemed to descend away from
them, their rise gradual enough to feel like they were in a slow-moving elevator. Priming all defenses for activation, the pilot continued as the canyon's walls dropped, their shrub-covered crests coming into sight. The light's victory climbed over the
shrub-covered crests coming into sight.
The light's victory climbed over the nearest rock wall, revealing more hills to the south, topped by an ugly gray sky, the clouds overhead dark with smoke and ash. At least there were no fires in sight, and the skyship's filters were doing a good job of keeping them from smelling the outside air. Our sight wasn't picking up much more than a muddy haze around the edges of the blocking hills, though dozens of colorful clouds were scattered throughout the area. From this distance, it was hard to tell whether they were locals, southerners, or maybe monsters, but none were all that powerful, so Eli didn't call out any warnings. Off to their east was one of the reservoirs that fed water to Pallium. The small brown lake wasn't looking all that refreshing, though. The small brown lake wasn't looking all that refreshing, though the multitude of little lights in and around its banks showed plenty of life. There was quite a collection of colors in the small town on the lake's southern end. It was a little far for Eli to pick out too many details, but the lack of any obvious fires or other damage probably meant the Southerners hadn't made it to this area, at least not in any significant numbers. The victory turned until the views of the lake and its tiny settlement were replaced with more brownish-green hills. Most of their peaks looked to be covered with the same grass and low bushes they'd been passing for the last hour. Most of their peaks looked to be covered with the same grass and low bushes they'd been passing for the last hour, though some trees sprinkled their slopes, especially closer to the lake, and a few hilltops further south. "Local sky is clear," one of the specialists called out, and several others followed after with their own status reports. As expected, the energy levels in the area were a bit chaotic, likely from the thousands of warriors using their magical abilities. Likely from the thousands of warriors using their magical abilities around Pallium. Some gifts were more disruptive than others, but if enough power got thrown around, there could be all sorts of negative side effects, like miniature monster surges, elemental lightning strikes from a clear sky, or worse. Thankfully, while the various readings were concerning, they didn't show some fresh disaster heading their way. The rain flew... The rain flew them slowly southeast, being careful to keep the hills between them and Pallium to hopefully keep the Southerners from seeing anything. Loud vehicle. We're on the last page here, so we probably got a minute or so left of narrating, and then we're gonna edit. And we'll probably edit the prior 3 chapters all the way up to this one. So we'll probably edit 4 chapters, which should take us I would guess 30 or 35 minutes. So you'll get a really good taste of what my edit process is like, I'll also go ahead and upload those chapters as we go to Positron, and I will let you see what the proofing process is like on Positron. But for now, we got to finish this chapter.
Fully keep the Southerners from seeing anything. Fully keep the Southerners from seeing anything.
The atmosphere in the sky house grew tense, making it clear Eli wasn't the only one anticipating something somehow going wrong. However, for all their worries, the navigators soon announced they were approaching their target landing location. Minutes later, the man was leaning forward in his chair, pointing out the viewport.
They were approaching their target landing location.
Minutes later, the man was leaning forward in his chair.
They were approaching their target landing location.
Minutes later, the man was leaning forward in his chair, pointing out the viewport at a fairly flat hilltop covered with grass and a thick stand of trees glowing atop this.
Later, the man was leaning
Forward in his chair, pointing out the viewport at a fairly flat hilltop covered with grass and a thick stand of trees growing along the southern slope. The rain's omniscience flickered with brief pulses of light as he pivoted the skyship around to the sporadic sounds of the thrusters.
The rain's omniscience flickered
With brief pulses
The rain's omniscience
flickered with brief pulses of light as he pivoted the skyship around to the sporadic sounds.
The rain's omniscience
Flickered with brief pulses of light as he pivoted the skyship around to the sporadic sounds of the thrusters adjusting their position while they descended.
of light as he pivoted the skyship
Around to the sporadic sounds of the thrusters adjusting their position while they descended. Outside the viewport, some more trees came into sight, slowly rising, followed by the gentle thump of contact that announced their arrival.
More trees came into sight,
Slowly rising, followed by the gentle thump of contact that announced their arrival. Here we go. All right. Official time. According to my timer, and again, I stop when I was shooting the shit with you. I stop when a very, very loud vehicle, acts of God and so forth. Official time, according to my timer, 41:56. And again, the estimate, according to my big old chart here, was 43 minutes. So, within about a minute of my estimate. Pretty good. Excel is a beautiful thing, ain't it? So that's one chapter done. Now, we're going to do some editing. Now, for the edits, I am going to switch to cans. Very nice. So let's hear
Chapter 30.
Now I'm hoping you can hear that fine. If not, oh well. But the important thing to note, a couple things on this. So standardizing your process, super, super important. So you'll see a couple things that I do here. I walked through my hotkeys earlier for how I do my edits here. So really important. Let me double check OBS that we're still good to go. Really, really important here is that, yes, I'm using my mouse to adjust boundaries of these clips. But that's all that my mouse is doing. And I'm zoomed in enough, but everything else, as far as navigating around left and right, it's all the tab key. Every time I press tab, I'm moving forward to the next edit point, the next time I've got a new recording. And I'm zoomed in quite a bit so that every time I press tab, and if you look, Pro Tools centers it. And that means every time I press tab, my mouse can just like chill right here.
So that's minimum mouse movement. All the motion is going to happen right here. Now, occasionally, if I've got two edits that are really close together, yeah, I'm going to have to do this. And that's fine, whatever. And then occasionally, I will have to like hold down the shift button and then scroll to actually like shuttle the window left and right. But this is all stuff that to me now is like super, super automatic. If I pressed like here, if I press tab and like the screen shift doesn't happen as I expect, I know like, oh, I just have to press shift and scroll and I'll be back in business. So that's the motion stuff. Just pressing tab to navigate. If you look at the start of every chapter up here, every single chapter starts with the same little green clip here. And then there's a little bit of yada yada, and then there's a yellow clip. And it's probably too small for you to see, but the label on all of these green clips is the same, and the label on all of these yellow clips is the same. And they're all the exact same length. And this track here, that's called room tone, and that's all I have. All I have on this track is 4 clips. The first clip is 0.75 seconds long. And that's what goes at the very beginning of my chapter. The next clip is 1.5 seconds long. And that's what goes after I say the word chapter 33 or whatever it is. And then this one is 2 seconds long, and that's what I am going to copy. That's what stays on my clipboard for any time I've got a ... a little chapter break. And then this one is 2.5 seconds long, and that's what goes on the very end of my chapter. And I'll show you right now the little trick for this. So when I'm at the very, very end of this chapter, but I'm all the way zoomed in, I don't want to like have to like grab this and like zoom out and do all this. Like, I don't want to do that. So I do a special little trick here. And that is, I just grab this end part here and I paste. Now, this isn't the actual clip that I want at the end. I don't want 2 seconds of silence at the end of my chapter. I want 2.5. Now, I'm not going to try to drag this out and make this exactly 2.5. That's miserable, and it's going to take a long time. But by pasting this over here in the clip list on the very, very far right, pasting it automatically highlights and selects this and shifts this clip list window to have this clip selected in the clip window. And alphabetically, the next clip in the clip window is my 2.5. So basically, when I get to the end of my chapter, I select the end, I hit paste, I go ahead and delete, I reach over, I drag the 2.5 in. That's a workflow that I found that works really fast for me. Again, finding repeatable processes that work for you, that are efficient, that are quick. There's probably a way to like automate that, to like script it, and maybe one day I'll do it. But for now, it's pretty fast, and you'll see. My goal, like once I want this to be returned to like as it is. I don't want to like do any of the work ahead of time. I want you to see like what a real chapter edit. Another important thing is that I always edit at the same zoom level. So my waveform height in Pro Tools, if I hold Alt and Shift and scroll, I can change how tall my waveforms are. If my waveforms are too tall, I am going to get distracted by all of these. I'm going to start trying to correct all these tiny little things. No. It's not important. I need to be right here. This is where I need to be. Like the very, 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 very loudest stuff should like, that's all I need to worry about. Like, I know that this is my vertical zoom level. Boom. This is where we need to be. And then my horizontal zoom level, like how far in this way do I need to be zoomed in? I judge it based on the resolution of my ruler up top. So when I'm recording, I like it to be where I can see 1 second. My tick marks on the top is 1 second. That's just what's comfortable for me for recording. For editing, I like to zoom in 2 steps. That's a half second for each tick. That's 0.2 seconds. So a fifth of a second for every tick. That's what feels good for me for editing. Again, your mileage may vary, but that's what feels really good for me. So I'm going to hit save. I'm going to make sure that this track is soloed. I'm going to go ahead and hit play just to make sure nothing else is soloed.
Chapter 30.
Good. Highlight this so that I have marked this down, right? Yeah. This predicted edit time is 6 minutes 13. I'm going to guess I'm going to be closer to like 5 minutes 15. That's my guess. I tend to be a little bit faster on the edit than the predictions come in. They're getting closer over time. All right. So we're going to count down, and I don't think you're going to see how fast it goes. Maybe after I'll talk about it, but you're going to see how fast this goes. And 3, 2, 1. Delete, delete. You'll also see I'm not going to listen to almost anything. That's an Alt and drag. That lets you copy as you drag something. That way I don't have to do a Control-C copy. I want to keep my 2-second segment on my clipboard so that when I get to my ... sections, I've got it. So I'm just pressing Tab and I'm adjusting my bounds. I'm not trying to get super surgical. I am not removing breaths. These breaths, they stay. Humans breathe. If we wanted no breaths, we would all be listening to AI books. Synthetic voice. But you know what? People hate that shit. Sounds like ass. A big part of that is because there's no breaths. It sounds unnatural. It makes people feel like they're drowning. If you ever listen to AI voice for long enough, like a big part of why you feel like you feel like you're about to have a panic attack, a big part of that is because there's no breathing. Like, dear God. When your narrator is breathing, you feel like you have permission to breathe. Generally, I like to make my cuts so before a breath. So if you're able to see this, I like my cuts before a breath, and this actually will probably listen to. Let's listen to this.
It's not that I don't want to tell you, but things get complicated.
That's fine. And then at the end of a line, if there's a nice big sort of space, I still like to be close to the end of the word. But I let the recording dictate. Here, yep. I don't really need to go into detail there, but I knew that was a spot where I did a weird, sort of like almost like a punch in place there. I'm familiar enough with my process that I knew what I was looking at when I saw that there, so didn't have to worry about it. Forget about it. Here we're going to listen to this gap.
Description of Baruta's death
That's fine. The things that you hear and you think are awkward, in a 13-hour audiobook, your listeners, they're not listening that closely to it, so long as they get the story, they get what's happening, they get the characterizations. They're not listening on hi-fi speakers. And the listening, it's almost always a secondary activity. Rarely is someone
only listening to an audiobook.
Wolf's frown turned thoughtful, and he slowed.
Almost always, someone is doing something else that is the primary activity, and the audiobook is something that they put on to accompany that activity. They are driving. They are riding the subway. They are exercising. They are doing laundry or dishes or cooking. They're doing something else, and the audiobook is keeping them company while they do that thing. So, don't agonize over your breaths or every little noise or every little ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Tell a good story. Like, master your tools in your craft. And then from there, wait.
Inside this metal case is a crystal that...
Yeah, see?
This metal case is a crystal that...
There we go. Just have confidence in your tools. And yeah, if you're finding yourself spending hours editing and just if it feels like this should be way easier, then you're probably right. It probably should be way easier. And asking questions in the Facebook group is probably the right thing. But then when people try to give you advice, insisting that, no, it has to be this way because I'm special. Like, well, then what do you want? Do you want us to go, well, you truly are the very special person whose situation is so special that, like, what do you want? Like, what do you want? Did you come for advice? Did you come for pity? I just don't understand how some people use social media. Like, what are you doing? Like, this job is very much like, the joke that I like to say is that it's very much like, oh, look at that, we're done. See that trick there? Boom. And I'm stopping the timer. We're at 5 minutes 48 on the timer. Select everything. I'm going to hit Control F. That's my automatic crossfade batch. That does a little tiny little crossfade at every single edit point. Every single edit point gets a little crossfade. Select everything, hit save, and now Control Alt B to bounce or render or export or whatever your DAW calls it. Pro Tools is very smart in that it automatically titles it the next number when you structure your file names this way. So this is already being called Chapter 30. I know that I'm good to go. So that's bouncing. We're going to enter in my time here. 5 minutes, 48 seconds on the edit. A little slow because I was yapping to you, fine people. And the length on that chapter is 17 minutes, 21 seconds. Ratio there, 2.30 seconds. 2.37. Not the greatest ratio, but perfectly respectable. Like, honestly, if you're anything under 3, like, you are killing it. And you should be really proud of that. For beginners, expect 6 to 10 for your first few books, for sure. Okay, let's open Positron. We're going to briefly take you off full screen because Positron on the home screen will have some stuff I don't want you to see. So we're going to full screen here. Positron. Here we go. And we're on the project screen for Positron. So I have already proofed everything through chapter 29. So on this other, on my other screen here that you can't see, I'm just navigating to my folder that has my audio. So I've got chapter 30 that I just bounced out, exported out. I'm just dragging it over into this window, chapter 30.mp3. So it's going to upload, and then Positron is going to analyze it, and then it's going to compare the audio
of that MP3 against the script right here, the PDF. So it has the script of this book, A Gateway to Galdish.pdf or whatever. So it's going to detect where I am, and it's going to basically listen to it just like a human proofer would do. It's going to listen, it's going to read, and anytime that it doesn't match up because I read the wrong word or whatever, it'll create a nice little report and it'll mark that. But that's going to take a few minutes to go through those steps. We've got some voiceover things, but we're not going to do any of those right now. We're going to keep working on doing some editing. So we're going to edit another chapter while this thing processes, and it should be done processing if we edit one more chapter. Move this down. So this is my little, my fun little process that helps me sort of track my progress. So these remain color coded this darker blue. So I can just tell at a glance. I move this room tone thing down. Let's just make this back. So the room tone track I move down as I edit. So I've edited chapter 30, so I moved the room tone down below it. But the chapter 30 remains the darker color until I have done the positron proofing and then re-recorded the pickups. Once I've re-recorded the pickups, I immediately will export that and then upload it into ACX, at which time it gets the happy recolor into a light blue that lets me know, yay, done. So let's edit another chapter. This one's going to be a little bit longer, I believe. We're going to zoom in to my preferred zoom level. We're going to go ahead and make the first cut. Hit save. Double check. This should be closer to a 10 minute, so a little bit longer of an edit. And I think after we do the positron thing on that last chapter that is currently processing, we'll probably shut the stream down then, because I'm almost out of water. We'll shut the stream down, and then I still will have... What will I have to do? Another 2 hours, 20 minutes to narrate tonight. So, not done by a long shot, but getting there. Less than 4 hours to narrate for the whole book to be done. So hopefully I should have this book delivered tomorrow. So that'll be fun. And then soon you'll be able to buy it. So let's edit. Here we go. All right. And here we go. Alt drag, tab. And this is it. Just tab and drag. Basically, I'm just if I see, when I'm dragging, I'm just picking the better version, the better bit of silence, at the end of a line. If it's at the end of a sentence, if it's out of breath, I basically am just dragging the cut to the beginning of the breath. That's all I'm doing. If it's at the end of a line, like there, if there's a difference between the old take and the new take, I pick the cleaner version. If there's no difference, then I just give it a little bit of a pad, a few milliseconds of pad, and just drop the cut and move on. You don't need to worry about having the time distance be exactly, because when I'm zoomed in this much, the time distances, the differences are so small that your pacing isn't going to be dramatically off if you dragged one a little bit further and one not quite so far. it ain't gonna matter that much. We'll listen to this.
Activating hypermind. Eli.
Perfect. Here, yeah, see, I'm dragging that quite a bit shorter, but again, these distances are so small. So you can see here, we got that nasty little noise there. I'm just going to drag over it. There. So just blending the two different takes, basically, to keep the quieter parts of both. You want to be careful about getting too close into the breath, because there will be some atmospheric information that doesn't quite show up in the waveform. You don't want to cut like right on the breath when you're coming from silence. Now, when you're mid-sentence, cutting right on the breath, totally fine. But when you're going from silence to a breath, there's some really quiet but noticeable pre-breath audio information that does exist that you don't want to cut too terribly close. We're going to listen to this.
Be 10 minutes later, matters grew a bit tense when it...
Totally fine. But yeah, this is it. This is the edit. If you are listening to every single transition, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. You need to become comfortable and confident in your punch and roll process to where you can edit by sight. And if somehow you do screw something up, that's why you've got proofing. If you somehow, like, I don't know, press the delete key.
The dipshit had stationed his troops just close.
It's fine. If you press the delete key, or there's a little silence noise here, but a silence noise right at the beginning of a word, usually fine.
Shook her head. Commander Tamrin shall...
See, that one's actually fine. We'll still delete it just because it makes me feel better. The little mouth noises at the ends of words and like surrounding breaths, those are the ones that if you want to sort of surgically delete, that's fine. But you also want to have some faith and confidence in your noise reduction tools. And sort of on that note, I had someone asking me in direct messages about, what software do I use and stuff. I'm entirely on the RX suite.
Think of Kinnunen on them. And
so I do use first of all, I don't use the standalone RX. Like, I see people posting screenshots of like the big fancy, like the idea of bouncing out of my DAW into the standalone RX and then bouncing out of that like back into my, like, oh my God, like what a miserable workflow that is. That just sounds miserable. Like, get you a DAW that supports whatever to where you can work natively within your DAW as a plugin. For God's sake, respect yourself. So I do use this spectral denoise because I'm running fans. Hold on.
Wolf hesitated. His dark eyes...
little nasty, but that's fine.
During my years in Brock to know all...
It's fine. We've got a ... here, and this one was a little funky, but I recognize it. Paste. So, this booth is set up to where if I've got like a short voiceover job, I'll shut the fans off. I don't have to use spectral denoise, and I've got like an unbelievably low noise floor, and it's just like the cleanest. I'm really, really proud of how quiet I was able to get this booth. And I built this booth with my own two hands, my own design. I didn't like buy plans off anybody. I just like figured it out. We got a big sinus noise right here. But when I'm running my fans, the fans in themselves, they're not so loud that I would like break ACX minimum specs. But I still do run spectral denoise just because it makes me feel a little bit warm and fuzzy. I do run very, very lightly a de-esser, because just my mouth, I don't know if I would call it a full-on speech impediment, but I'm a bit SE. My S's are very SE. So I do run a very, very light, and it's just the RX de-esser. It's very light. It's not a lot of reduction. I'm not trying to eliminate them. I'm just tamping them down, just softening them just a little bit. And then the standard mouth declick. And again, I'm not running that super hard. I'm running it at like a 2, maybe 2.2 reduction. Really, really soft. And then everything else, all the rest of the magic is just EQ and compression. I do have I came to audiobooks from mostly music production. So I know my way around a compressor, and I know how to use EQ and compression and limiters, and so meeting ACX specs.
If elemental shield, their
Yeah, we're gonna take this breath.
elemental shield, their flats.
Yeah. So finding a way to meet ACX specs in a way that, to me, because you can meet ACX specs while also sounding like shit. I wanted to meet ACX specs and sound good. And I feel like I have accomplished that. I feel like my stuff sounds pretty good. And my settings are pretty damned resilient. I can throw really sustained, loud audio at it. I can throw lots of really quiet audio at it, and it will conform to ACX specs without me touching anything. It's taken a lot of tweaking over the years. Hold on, let's listen to this.
Removed for their dishonorable conduct.
Huge click there. It's taken a long time for me to really tweak it over the years, but I'm happy with how my stuff sounds. Doesn't sound overly compressed, but oh boy, I will fit into that ACX window safe and snug, no matter how soft or loud I am actually talking. But I've been asked if I use a gate. No gate. You do not want to be gating in this. It will either sound like shit, or it will end up making you fail ACX specs because your noise floor will be unnaturally low. But even if you don't go all the way to a negative infinity.
Oh, really? He asked. Oh, really? He asked.
That might still be fine. If I get a error when I do my batch fades, I'll know that's exactly where it is. It's around 27 minutes. And then that's good to go. Delete. There, stop the timer. Grab everything, batch fade. No error, good. Save. Bounce. Chapter 31, bounce. Let's mark that time. 10, 16, almost to the second. That's 27, 22. All my yapping got me a 2.5. The things I do for y'all. All right. This thing's done. Let's open this up. So, chapter 30, only 5. So you have to check. You have to double check Positron. It has identified 5 potential errors. So we're going to check real quick and see if these really are errors. First one, I can tell you right now, this is not an error. It doesn't like the way I say news. I think it wants me to say news. But I hate saying news. I don't say news. I say news. Let's hear it. And that's the great thing. You click the box, and you just press space, and it'll play you the context.
Everyone learns about the rest of the news, Dara.
News. That's fine. I'm going to click OK. No need to fix. This one, it says I inserted a word.
Ouch. Dara dropped into the chair across.
Did I actually insert it, or is just the word Dara a little bit extended?
Ouch. Dara dropped into the chair across from.
I think that's fine. Did I insert the word thing?
His RX skills are unlike anything I have ever.
I definitely did insert a word there. Pick up.
Anything I have ever encountered. Indeed.
That is not an insert. That one's okay. This one's always just like, is this actually the end of the chapter? That one's okay. So only one pickup for the whole chapter. I'm very happy with that. And if I were actually going to do the pickups for it right now, which I'm not, I usually do them in big batches. Doing them one at a time as you go is like, to me, that's not very efficient. We're all about efficiency here. Up here, this import export, I just click that. And I would actually usually do this on my tablet, but I'll show you what it looks like on the big screen here. And I just leave it all as the standard. I click export. And it gives me this thing here, but all the action is just right here at this part of the screen here. Make sure that you're seeing this right. Yeah. And basically, the key thing that you're seeing here, and I'll even zoom in, the key thing that you see here is, number one, ideally, I'm doing this, again, in a big batch, so I'll have probably like, say I'm doing 10 chapters at a time. So, okay, chapter 30, I go into Pro Tools here, and I go, okay, I'm working on chapter 30, so let me go back to, here we go, chapter 30. Let's make chapter 30 this big. And I go, okay, and right over here, it's got the timestamp, 2 minutes, 42 seconds. And I go, okay. And you can see why I would have this on my tablet instead of on the screen, because I wouldn't have to be alt-tabbing back and forth, back and forth. I would just have it on my tablet. 242, right? 242. And then we've got, here it is. His RX skills are unlike any, don't say the word thing.
Slyly. His RX skills are unlike anything I have ever encountered.
And sometimes the pickup is something that I can just cut. But I'm not going to try to cut the word thing, because I would just reread the line. And to do that, what I will usually do, I am not going to try to, I would probably just set a recording right here and just punch in right here, record over the whole line, snug up the edits, boom, donezo. In fact, hell, let's do it. Let's do this, 3/4, and then let's do Chrome PT like that, so you can actually see it. Why not? Let's do it. Since there's only one pickup. This should work. Okay, please. Here we go.
Tia said, smiling slyly.
Oops, not all the way down.
Tia said, smiling
Slyly.
slyly. His RX skills are unlike any.
So, I get a lot more. My goal with pickups is to replace as little audio as possible. Some people, like, I understand the philosophy of like, oh, I'm going to replace all this stuff. Man, if I can replace just like 2 words, we'll see how this goes. So I'm actually going to, instead of, if I was doing like a normal narration here, I would place my cursor back here, which is where I sort of like did by habit there. But I'm actually going to place my cursor here because I want the ability to drag this clip out here from here. So you'll see what happens here.
Smiling slyly. His RX skills are unlike any I have ever encountered.
Here we go. So we're zooming in. His RX skills are unlike. And then we've got hard. Is it right here?
Skills are unlike any.
There it is. So unlike. Is that the hard K for unlike? And then there's unlike any.
is that I have ever encountered right there.
His RX skills are unlike any I have ever encountered. His RX skills are unlike any I have ever encountered.
Look at that. That is 0.8 seconds of actual audio that is being replaced. And there we go. Grab the whole thing, hit Control F. So what I'm doing, brief walkthrough of this little window here. This is my batch fade window. Hopefully your DAW has something like this. Seeing all this stuff, do not think that you need to get Pro Tools. For the love of God, don't get Pro Tools. What this thing does, it's basically, it just allows me, for every cut, make it a crossfade. And this just gives me a lot of control. So every cut, make a crossfade, and I want it to be a really, really fast crossfade. So it's 10 milliseconds. Really, really fast. If it's too long, there's a chance that it'll bleed and start to pick up some of the garbage audio on other sides of that cut that I don't want to happen. 10 milliseconds is so fast that it does the crossfade that I need it to do, but it doesn't pick up any garbage on either side of the cut. Very, very important. Sometimes I make a cut by hand. I make a crossfade by hand. And when I do that, I do it for a very specific reason, and I do not want that crossfade to be messed with by this batch fade thing. So, crossfade operation. Check, create new crossfades. Obviously, that's why I'm doing this. Adjust existing crossfade length, shape, or anything otherwise. Those are unchecked. Very, 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 very important. All this other stuff like getting fancy with the slope or the shape, that's fine if you're doing, if you're doing like music and you're doing like a long like 1970s like album fade out. If we're doing rapid dialogue, fade in and fade out and crossfades, none of this crap matters. It's not going to be audible. It's not going to matter. Just keep it standard. It'll make your life easier. Just keep it standard, whatever. Whatever's the default for your DAW, just keep it that. But yeah, 10 milliseconds is a good standard. You're not going to have problems with bleed. But yeah, if you've got the ability to create new crossfades as a batch, but not have it overwrite crossfades that you might have done intentionally, maybe you wanted something to have a longer crossfade or a shorter crossfade for a reason, because you have to do like a really surgical edit, stuff like that. We've already done that for this track. I'm going to turn on everything. I'll show you each one real quick. Let's turn that off. Spectral denoise, only 6 dB of reduction. And you can see this noise profile. It's not a lot because it was just picking up off of just the room tone. So that's all that spectral denoise is doing. Then I've got, here's my, and other than RX, I'm mostly just using stock plugins. I'm not using crazy fancy, even though I've got some crazy fancy plugins, I didn't want to run into a situation where if like, for some reason, my Native Instruments license like somehow became invalid. Like suddenly I lose all my Native Instruments compressors or whatever. I didn't want that to be an issue. So most of my stuff, other than Isotope, obviously, but as far as I'm concerned, as an audiobook narrator, you cannot do the job without Isotope RX. The mouth declick alone is worth the price tag for the entire suite. Like, you just, that's part of the capital investment that you must make in this business. Like, you need a website, you need a this, you need a that, you need a microphone. RX is like your microphone. It's one of the things that you must pay for in order to do this.
So this is a stock plugin. This is just like the standard, like it's got EQ, it's got compression. It's like really nice, standard, whatever. This is a compressor.
At Eli. When we first
It's not
met
pumping
in
too
my
hard.
manor,
Maybe
your
6
auric
dB
control
of
was
reduction,
sporadic.
9 dB of makeup. Next up is mouth declick. I've got it set, again, 2.2. Everything else is, I don't have it skewing. I don't have anything crazy going on. Next up is the DS. And the DS is set, is it set for -7 threshold? And then another channel strip. And these little things, these little dips here, that's only like 1 dB of reduction. I'm not doing insane, the first one here. Yeah, these are all less than a dB of adjustment here. Don't go nuts with the EQ sculpting. These are really, really minor adjustments. Obviously, I've got the high pass and the low pass, but that's just getting rid of information that isn't important. The compressors, those are pumping for sure. How hard is this second compressor pumping?
At Eli. When we first met in my manor, your
Again,
auric control was sporadic,
-6 dB.
giving me glimpses of your feelings
This
during
one's a
our
4.0.
conversation. But then, when we met again only weeks later in Bishal, you
8 dB of gain. And then the one other paid plugin I do have is a Waves. And this is just such a solid, easy. I have yet to find a limiter that just works. Like, it works so well. It's so simple. So many limiters are like, I'm trying my best, but sometimes I let things through. Well, then you're not a limiter. Like, this one does what it says on the tin. It limits. It really does work. You don't push it too hard.
at Eli.
Like,
When we
how
first
much
met in my
insinuation?
manor, your auric control was sporadic, giving me glimpses of your feelings.
I'm never giving
during
it
our
too much to attenuate, and even when it does push, it's not super coloring. It's not like adding a bunch of distortion or saturation. It's just nice and transparent, but it stops the volume. And that's it. That's my whole mastering chain. I would not suggest trying to copy it because there are other things going on under the hood as far as like my levels and yada yada. But it's something that I've iterated on over years now, and it's pretty much foolproof. So hit save once again. Everything is active. I'm going to bounce that out, and we're going to call that chapter 30. Bouncy bounce. Yes, 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 yes. And this one's going to take a whole lot longer to bounce because all those RX plugins, when those are active, I only activate them when I'm doing a final bounce like this. Those RX plugins, man, they suck up resources. Have I dropped any frames? I've dropped a few frames. I bet they're recently because of what is happening right now. Yeah, RX is crazy resource, but I'm getting a 30x ratio, which is quite good. On my old PC, I just built this PC a couple months ago. My old PC, I was getting like a 6 or a 7x ratio on my bounces. So like an hour-long chapter would take like 9 or 10 minutes to bounce. It was brutal. It was brutal. So let's, I'm going to take you off full screen and show you what it's like to upload to ACX, just in case you've never seen it. So yeah, I didn't expect to do this, but we're showing you the whole process here. So I'm taking you off full screen here just so I'm not showing like other clients' business here. Yeah, that all is, and I don't mind sharing the, I'm just making sure this author uses a pseudonym, and he really, really, really does not want his real name shown. Okay. Yes, only his pseudonym is shown. Okay. so we can come back to here. So, yeah, and I don't mind my my budget being shown here. $250 per finished hour. That's my minimum that I work with authors for now. And in fact, for new authors, it's higher for anyone that wants to work with me now that if we don't already have a relationship with. So going forward, working with John Quinton again, I'll continue to keep him at $250 per finished hour because we're homies like that. But whether someone contacted me out of the blue or someone on ACX or something like that, we would be higher than this rate because I'm just too busy, and it's just supply and demand. Like that's how it goes. Okay, so here's what ACX looks like when you're actually in the finished production mode. If you weren't aware, I've already uploaded 29 chapters, and let's upload number 30. And we just go into audiobooks, Gateway to Galdish, chapter 30. That's it. Exciting, huh? You just wait for it to upload, and then you go. So I just got to do that. What is that? 9 more times, including the epilogue. And the epilogue is nice and short, 5 pages. So I should be able to finish this book tomorrow, which is very exciting. But I want to thank everybody for stopping by. We did a handful of audio voiceover auditions, so that was fun. And we got some narrating done on the stream. Got some editing done. But yeah, we're going to shut it down so that I can go refill my water bottle. And then I'm going to come out here and I'm going to narrate these next 3 chapters. If you enjoyed the 1 chapter that you heard on the stream, you can check out, the author's name is John Quinton. The Lurin Chronicles is the series. This is book 4. Book 5 is just about ready. My next book will be in a different series, and then I'll start narrating book 5 after that one. So this one should be available on Audible in maybe 2 weeks. And then book 5 should be available on Audible in maybe 5 or 6 weeks. So if you're into a cool isekai, like, I'm not going to say magical realism, but I don't know, just a cool fantasy with like a really fun, humorous main character. This is a cool series. I'm really, really enjoying this. You can check it out. The Lurin Chronicles. John Quinton is the author. It's the first 3 should be out on Audible. The first 2 for sure are. But there you go. And there it is. And we see no errors in our audio specs there. So there you go. All right. For everybody that did stop by, I want to thank you for stopping by. For my YouTube friends, I hope I didn't miss any chats there. Let's see if I did. I'll be so sad. But if you do check this out at some time in the future on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment. I do respond to comments, no matter how late they come in the future. And we'll be doing streams more frequently in the future. I know I say that every time, but these do keep me productive. My next book, I won't be able to live stream any of the narration, but it's still good for me to do the voiceover auditions. That is fun for me. And I hope it's useful for some folks out there. And I do think I want to do some standalone videos to like really just laser focus on like, here is the Pro Tools punch and roll process. Like boom, boom, boom. Like really simple in the way that Mike Delgadio did for, I think he did it for Reaper. But I think that might be useful for some people out there because it seems, according to the Facebook groups, it seems like some people out there are struggling. So I hope you're not struggling.
I hope that you're doing really well out there. But if you want to pay me to talk for you, head over to veteranaudio.com. My name is Jimmy Moreland. I hope that you have enjoyed yourself. Send me a message. Hit me up on Twitch, on YouTube. Hit me up on Instagram. Hit me up on whatever you like, and we can chat. Otherwise, we'll see you next time, and I hope you have a good one. We'll see ya.